Hello, I'm live and it's 6-4, 6-4 guys. 6-4. 6-4. 6-4. Okay, whatever. 6-4. 6-4. 6-4. 6-4. 6-4. 6-4. Ah, whatever. And I'm actually crashing the game, of course then. Doesn't have screenshot on, I don't know. Could have load the whatever. Alright. Today we are going to we're playing Minecraft. Yay! So because I'm not good at combat. I'm not I'm bad at combat. Sorry. Alright, never mind. I do have a battle pass on, so it has some discounts. Billy White Bread. Wait. What about Henry's friend? I want to listen to Henry's friend. Yo, go Henry. Double with Henry. Okay, I have a Henry in my freaking farm.
I spent the day helping around my Uncle Henry's farm. Earning some much needed cash without waiting on a layoff. It was a long day out in the
Okay, today I'm gonna move out, or I'm gonna move out to my other base because it's so fucking laggy. I don't want this shit no more. I'm gonna abandon this space right now. Look at this, I'm so laggy as shit. God damn, I need to move out, man. I don't know. I think I lag. I think no. That's like 20 frames or something. I think.
Around 11 this morning, I was up in the loft of Kevin's barn, pitching down hay and drizzling sweat from every pore like a fountain. He was squinting up at me through the haze of his players unfiltered, drawing away his thinking about life, the universe, and all things in between, with his dry, ambling countryman's wit. He asked me what me and the missus would be getting up to this evening, with a sly wind under the brim of his gray hip dude from the 40s style hat, turning the innocuous question into a sex joke. I grinned down at him, sweat dripping from my eyebrows, and said, "You old goat, Henry. They're probably gonna just veg out on the couch and watch a movie. We're in a zombie kick these days, lots of fake blood, bad acting, good mindless fun." Henry waved a dismissive hand and said, "Zombies, hell. Don't you watch no titty flicks? And all kinds of porn on the internet these days.
Live a little." No, that's a dark humor. That's a joke.
My uncle is almost 83. Throw me up a smoke? Don't start a fire in my hayloft. Just climb down here and take a break. I look like a shot put champion. I climbed down the ladder, nailed the place against the loft, and accepted a Pall Mall filter. It made my head swim with the first.
I want to move out of my base. I just want to move out of my base. I don't want to use this base no more. It's like, I don't know.
Henry dragged his beer cooler over to the tractor.
Space is abandoned now.
Winds and a sigh. Careful, man. You can't handle these ones. Your generation's kind of delicate, will it? You can pitch the fucking hay yourself. I finished for him. Henry laughed at that and gave me a beer out of gold cooler. He was quiet for a few minutes, just leaning back against the tractor tire and staring off to his barnyard.
I think I'll make sure. I don't have shit.
It looked like he was deep in thought. I drank my beer and waited for him to say, I saw it. Looked like they were in the movie. I guess called.
Here, I can't sleep here. This is monster because I have a zombie horse here. Damn. A zombie horse. I can't sleep here anymore. I'm taking that bed. Fuck it all, bro. I'm gonna leave this base out. I'm gonna use this breeding base. Maybe this farming base. I don't know. Give me the farming base. you want to put my base on? I don't know. I think this side of the base side. I don't know. Let me check here. I found a good side to put my base. I think my middle, my farm. I don't know. It's like, I'll be a short base because I don't have a lot of fucking shit. So put a base on, but I have infinite. I got infinite. I got infinite. Infinite water source. I don't know. Sure. I'll take this one. Alright, let's do for memory lane. Memory lane, let's go. Memory lane. Puppies here, alright.
Wild berries, ears, feed corn in the middle of the night. Shit.
I keep losing my shit, man. I hate my life. Oh my god. Yo.
They sure didn't help us either. Then winter came again. Henry lapsed into silence. I waited through a full minute of tense silence before I prodded. Henry? Winter came.
To build my base, I have to freaking. I don't know.
Damn near impossible to make a tin box heater, makeshift barrel stove.
To build a base.
Snow was bad that day. The ladies from the church were having a hard time getting out to sea. We could hardly ever make it to town and pick up the money the men were sending back. That was a desperate situation. Henry stopped to drink his beer, and I saw that his hands were shaking. There was a Hungarian family. The man had left to find work with the rest of them, and his brother. They left his wife and grandpa and 4 kids. The youngest of them was babies. 4 or 5. This little guy. One morning he goes out and told his brother to fetch the firewood. Only the older brother comes back. He says, a wolf came running out of the woods and took his brother away. Then snatched him up and he was gone for a kick and he began to react. I shifted uncomfortably. I warned KFC. Jesus Christ. No. There's a problem. See, the kid didn't come running back after his brother just got dragged away by a fucking wolf. Like you think he would. His little brother taken by a wolf? Hell, most kids would come screaming back like their ass was on fire. Their hair was catching. He didn't. No, this kid stayed right there and gathered up some firewood. He was gone for almost 5 hours. There was blood on his coat. Henry waited a few moments for the implications to sink in. The kid's grandpa grabbed him up and tore his coat off. ripped it right open at the seams in a rage. Suddenly I understood. And we all started screaming at him. Everyone started to circle in front of their boxcar and just yelling, screeching at the top of their lungs. His mother wailed, "Why'd you do such a thing? You monster." She slapped the tooth right out of his mouth. Knocked it flying through the air. Gave him another zinger off the top of the head, and wham! The kid ran for it. And his mother grabbed a good-sized branch from a pile of firewood that he dropped out. Chased after him. Weakly, I interjected. "Hey, Henry, maybe this is..." Henry ignored me and plowed on. He wasn't looking at me, he was looking out at the barnyard again. Didn't get very far. She was a woman possessed, shrieking like a banshee, swinging that branch with everything she had. No one tried to stop her, just stood there in the howling wind. We watched it happen. After it was over, some women buried him in the snow. Took his shoes off first, though. Still had somewhere left in it. Could have been a waste to bury. I drenched my suddenly parched throat with a few large swallows of my beer and gasped. God. What did the mother do after he was dead? To her boxcar, laid down in her blankets. Henry Reed. He'd come out in 3 days. I would have rather been almost anywhere else than sitting there in Henry's barn, feeling slightly ill. This horrible tale, felt like a toxic rain from his trembling lips. Somehow made it worse. It was coming from Henry. A good-hearted fellow, an all-around decent human being, a man who I'd known my entire life. Infinitely worse. I asked, what about the youngest brother? Henry grimaced, deepened into a tragedy mask, lines, spiderweb wrinkles. He had himself another long swallow from his beer can. Me and a few of the older boys followed their tracks out to the woods not far from the tree line. Two sets of tracks joined together. Drops of blood in the snow. The trail ended in weed, hills, blood everywhere. Splashes, frozen puddles and stuff all over the place. Found a good-sized rock, a sharp edge line on the ground, and there was more blood on the rock. A lot of it. Strands in hair. He made a fire pit nearby.
That's it, I'm moving out.
Snow over it to bury
What is
the
that base
ashes.
for farming? I don't know.
Pretty half-assed.
I have my farm, I don't know, but I don't
He
know.
was just a kid after all.
So, bitch!
Felt a shiver.
It's so lag in my base, I'm tired of it.
Just a kid. Just a normal boy. Slowly become a desperate and starving boy with another long, hopeless life. The older boy cried as he beat his defenseless younger sibling with a rock. Did he cry when he sank his teeth? The boy was burned and blackened with flesh. There were scraps of burnt up clothes in the ash. The smell and odor of roasted meat in the fire pit just faint. It was there. And God help me, my stomach is growling. And I couldn't help it. None of us could. We turned away from the fire pit and we followed another trail further in the woods. We tried to hide the body under a pile of pine branches. He was hoping to come back to it later. I made a sound of disgust in back of my throat. Henry solemnly nodded in agreement. Yeah, you bet. We didn't want to leave him with the coyotes, so we made a sled out of the branches and we hauled the remains back to our camp. Buried that far. How's that? Done. tried to forget what happened and moved on. That sounds fucking horrible, but there wasn't any other way to make it any better. It was done, and never be undone. The rest of us had to go back to the business of survival. I blinked up at Henry and breathed. Man, that was fucking heavy. Henry sipped at his beer. I could see that he was trying to get his thoughts in order. I patiently waited for him to continue. Henry quavered. An awful thing, especially for a kid my age. Too young to do anything about it, so always forget. I was 9 years old that winter. And I was the one who saw it first. Henry sipped at his beer. I could see that he was trying to get his thoughts in order. I patiently waited for him to continue. Right around dusk. Henry said, maybe a couple weeks after we put the two of them under the snow. I was having a pee before bed.
Wait, what the fuck is that?
I was standing just outside the door of the boxcar with my Willie's ship.
Give me that trident. Give me that fucking trident.
I was finishing up.
Give me that trident. Oh, you fucking
Realized
bastard.
I could actually feel it, you know? I could feel the eyes on me. Yeah. I was feeling. My voice was thick. I didn't want to listen to even one more second of the story, but I didn't have any choice. Henry was going to let it all out. It was far too late to stop it now. I looked up and I saw at the rear of the car standing just a skinny mannequin. His forehead was tented in. One of his eyeballs was hanging from his socket. It's the Hungarian boy. Good eye was blazing a deep shade of red. This, I don't know how to explain it. Made me think of hellfire. I could see that his bare feet weren't touching the snow.
You need pufferfish to train that?
Both the beer can from
It's very good.
involuntarily tightened my grip.
I don't know.
Despite the heat, a sharp chill had raced up my spine. I screamed. I ran back inside with both
What am I
hands
doing,
over
bro?
my pants up. And I grinned. There was no humor in that grin, none at all. I told everyone what I'd just seen, and the other kids all started crying. Grandma grabbed me by the arm and demanded to know if I was telling the truth. Her eyes were so wide, they were almost popping out of her skull. She was scared. Real scared. Her reaction scared the rest of us even worse. She called me a liar and a horse's ass. She yelled, what would happen if his poor mother heard you say those horrible things? Has she not suffered enough, you lying little bastard? Henry wiped the back of his hand across his mouth and let out a shaky breath. Your grandmother snapped. She started screaming, liar, at the top of her lungs. She beat the tar out of me. She was scared. She was hungry. She was probably losing hope too, just like the rest of us. She was tired of being strong. She was tired of being alone. Yes, I understand. I don't blame her for being lonely. I just sat there and stared at her until that very moment. I never suspected the tiny, kindly old grandmother of my childhood memories would be capable of such a thing. My jaw was probably on the floor. I was staying on, so the other one came out to the fire. His empty can on the dirt floor and fetched himself another one.
Okay, I'll put my house here this side. I don't
Snow
know.
all the way to the frozen ground. But there,
No,
snow
I'm
hadn't
a good one.
stirred. It was gone. The mother of the dead boy was the first one to disappear. She stepped out one night to scoop a pail of snow from water. Got back. Her track stopped about 10 feet from the door to the box. One pair of footprints. Next night, a little girl went out for a pee after dark. She was never seen again. Once again, one set of tracks in the snow. If that happened, I'd steel myself for another beating. She cried in my face, grabbing me by the shirt. It's not go out after dark. Promise me.
What?
Promise me. I gave her my word.
I think it's something shaking my phone. I don't know what's wrong with it.
That night I woke up to the sound of fingernails scratching the walls.
Alright, whatever.
My dad heard it too. We crept up into ragged old blankets. Pushed him back to me. Just a crack.
Could be 6 or 3 by 3. I don't know. I think 5 by 6 by 3. I don't know. But
Right there on the other side of the
if it's 3, it's small as fuck. I don't like it. Like 5, 7, like 5, 7
He
here.
wiped away his slick
5,
layer
7
of
by
sweat from
each.
his brow. Regarded the lit end of the cigarette with terror. His bony old knees were trembling inside his baggy green work boots. He dropped the cigarette and crushed it under his work boots.
It's a small house. Like I don't know. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. This is 4 and this is 5. You know what? I will do 5 here and 7. No, not I'll do 7. Wait. Let me trust my. Let me trust my guts. Alright, my guts said to me to actually have a 7 by block each. This is 5, so I don't know. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 2 more.
Hungry animal begging for
Over
scraps.
here, and here we go. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. There we go. Like, I don't know. It'll be the smallest house of it.
Felt
This
like I
ship.
was falling into the
That'll be the
eyes,
smallest
sinking
house.
down, drowning into burning oblivion. Your dad whispered, "What is it?" And behind
This is
me,
way
I
too
snapped
small,
out
bro.
of it.
Fuck.
I yanked the blankets closed and pushed him away. I snapped nothing. There's nothing out there. We crawled back into our miserable little beds. And after I was sure he was asleep, I started crying as quietly as I could.
I'll do
I was
this side.
shaking
I
with
don't know.
relief. God help me. I wanted to let that thing in. Oh, yes. Just throw back those horse blankets and welcome that awful thing inside with open arms. Probably seconds away from doing just that. If your dad hadn't snapped me out of it, I reckon we wouldn't be having this conversation right now.
1, 2, 3. 1, 2,
I sat up straight
3,
in my seat and
4,
interjected.
5.
Okay, just a second. Where the hell was Grandpa while all this was going on? Didn't he know? Couldn't you,
4,
like,
5,
send him a telegram or something?
3,
Write him a letter?
3, 13. Okay. Do
Shook his
13
head.
blocks each and then
Who knows for sure what happened with Grandpa? He left us and we never saw him again. Send one thin dime back to his family, not once. As far as I know, he was either in jail or he was dead. It's the only conclusion that makes any sense to me. At least an eyebrow. I shook my head. I could see in his face that this was a lie. I never saw him again. Of course he came back at some point. How else would I have known the man during my childhood? Trying to keep my tone neutral, I said, "Well, obviously you all ended up being reunited at some point, right?" And it was for a fact. I spent a lot of summers working on his farm. He was definitely alive and well. Henry gave me a look that I'd never seen from him before. A cynical and calculating assessment. After a moment or two, he chuckled. "Oh, you know it for a fact, do you?" "No, he never met your biological grandfather. And you call Grandpa is actually your grandma's second. My stepfather, I guess, in the old house. Already long gone by then. They married in the late 50s. Once again, my jaw was on the floor. I sputtered, "What? Why didn't I know this? Do any of my cousins know?" Henry cocked his head and drawled, "No, I doubt it. Well, and us kids don't talk about those days. No point in dredging up all those bad memories. I just, you know, I mean, this story is pretty far out there, Henry.
Building a new house because I have no more house anymore. Like, fuck this.
I just don't know.
Alright, I'm gonna build my new house.
Maybe you don't.
But I do. I'll do this small house.
German family lived in a train next to us the next morning. Paul,
Right in the ocean.
the door was hanging wide open, and barrel stoves cold. Signs of a struggle. Listen, just gone. 6 kids, 4 women.
Yeah, I don't need this.
Left everything behind, just vanished. Henry fumbled in his pack for another cigarette. I held out my hand and he passed one over. Squinted through the smoke and shook my head at him. So you guys packed up and immediately got out of there, right? I mean, I would have been out of there so fucking fast I'd leave a trail of smoke behind me. You fuck everything, just bundle up and go. Where? Henry countered, and I threw my hands up in the air. Go anywhere, man. Jesus Christ, who gives a shit where? There were fucking vampires scratching at the walls. It was a high time to put on your boogie shoes and go. I have no boogie shoes, Henry weaved. I was wearing the Hungarian boys' shoes. The shoes they pulled off his feet before they buried him in the snowdrift.
Not my fault this, I have a double bullshit.
Holes, once again, go fucking where? Great Depression. You're in a foreign land. You think there was somewhere to go? Pull your head out of your ass. I looked down at my beer can to avoid making eye contact. I didn't know this version of Henry. I never even suspected that he existed. Meekly I answered, no, I guess not. I guess not. He repeated. Easy to say what you would have done. You weren't actually there, is it? There's only 2 options. Stay there and pray to God that we can be spared, or we can try and reach the nearest village and freeze to death. Snow's deep. Take the better part of a day. Healthy adults make that journey. 3/4 of the group were kids. Most of us weren't even 10 years old. Even if we made it there, there'd be nowhere for us to stay. People in the village had already made it known what stuff to do with it. I heard from those women moved from church for almost 2 months. We're not our own. They decided we cram everyone in just 3 of those boxcars in the sunsets. All keep an eye on each other. Crammed to the bitch. Not used to it, warmer than usual. No one said a word all night. Even the youngest kids were quiet as church mice. I was scared. I thought we'd probably be safe, as long as no one looked outside. Even so, no one really got any sleep. I heard voices in the wind. Sometimes it'd be a bang against the side of the car. My heart would start pounding. And right around 2 in the morning, we all heard a scream. Just one word. No. And then silence. Morning was a long time coming. The sun finally came peeking over the horizon. Found the other 2 boxcars standing wide open. Everyone inside was gone. I felt a shiver run up my spine. Henry got off the cooler with a loud pop at his knees, and he offered me another beer. I popped it open and drank deeply. Despite the oppressive heat shimmering in the air outside the barn door, it felt cold all over. You'd think that no one would be able to sleep the next night, but everyone was sawing logs at midnight. We had all been awake for at least 36 hours. I fell into this incredibly vivid dream that spring had arrived. In the dream, I pulled back the horse blankets and saw golden sunlight shining down on the green meadow. The snow was gone. It was warm. You hear the birds singing. Hungarian woman sitting there in a rocking away, humming to herself in the sunshine. All their boys were sitting in her lap, on each leg. They looked clean, happy, well fed. Butterflies were dancing in the air above their heads.
There we go. I got my base on. Like, I have a thing. I have a friggin' thing. This is awesome.
No one was hungry. No one was cold or afraid. Suffering was over.
No, I don't have to add windows. Like, I don't know. Last time I had windows, but I don't want to add windows no more.
Winter's
Like,
over. You look so hungry. Here, come have a nice bowl of goulash. I walked up to the door and held out a big steaming bowl of meat and gravy. Right. It didn't smell good. I wanted it so bad. I wanted to be outside in the warmth to get the sun on my face. Even in the dream, I knew something was wrong. Her eyes weren't right. They were glowing that deep, ugly red. Hellfire red. She stood in front of our door with that steaming bowl of stew cradled in her hand, smiling up at me in the sunlight, and I realized it smelled exactly like that burned body we found in the wood. Henry grinned his crooked, humorous grin at the floor between his feet. She almost got me. I almost reached for that bowl and took everything I had and stepped away from that bowl and said, "No, go away, you can't come in." The next instant, someone was screaming in the dark and I was fighting to throw off my blankets. My heart was racing a mile a minute. It was your grandma. She was screaming at the old Hungarian man, the grandfather of the boys that we buried in the snow. He was standing in front of the door with the blankets pushed aside, and I could see in the moonlight that he was still asleep. Ma grabbed his arm and he yelled, "Let me go, I want to feel the sun." I barely even saw what happened next, just a blur. The old boy hopped outside in his long johns, his arms spread out like he was about to give someone a hug, and he was gone. He was yanked right off his feet and gone. I screamed again, pulled the blanket shut. I caught a glimpse outside before she did, and I saw them. The people who went missing, I saw their eyes glowing in the dark. And in the silence, I finished my beer and waited for him to collect himself.
it's like Nigerian motherfuckers. Alright, whatever.
Ron was a hell of a thing. Fell right back to sleep after the old man was taken by the monsters outside. Went like a light. I probably fainted. I woke up to voices outside. They were calling for us to come out. I thought it was them at first. Things with the red eyes. The German woman from the church. Stolen a sleigh from a stable in town. Great big sleigh. Team of horses. They were trying to come out to see us for weeks. No one could help them. They finally took matters in their own hands, helped themselves to the sleigh. They said it was what Jesus would do. Henry chuckled to himself and took a long swallow from his beer can. Grandma flung herself at their feet and begged them to take us back to town. They asked us where the rest of us were. Ma just shook her head and kept saying, "Take us with you, please. You must take us away from here." In the end, they simply couldn't say no. Found ourselves staying in the basement of the Lutheran church. Townsfolk weren't too happy about it. The German woman shamed them with Bible quotes. But they finally shut the hell up and left us alone. What did Grandma say about the people who went missing? She had to tell them something. True, Henry grunted. They were church-going folks who were simply dying. Believed in the forces of good and evil. When spring thaw came, they took them all back out to the junked-out boxcar. A few bags of salt. I went with them. salt of the earth, gave a little Hungarian boy a prop up there. I was the one who dug the hole. He planted an apple tree to mark his grave. Never came back. Henry looked at his watch and sighed. That's pretty much it, kiddo. That's the story. Look, I don't know about you, but I'm getting hungry. Go over to the house, get some lunch. Henry's story is left me feeling like a wrung-out washcloth. It was fantastic and dreadful. No doubt in my mind that he was telling the truth. Except for one crucial detail. I cleared my throat and asked him, what really happened to Grandpa Henry? I think you know the answer. Henry grimaced and scrubbed his hands over his eyes. He looked exhausted, but he also looked relieved. Secrets are heavy baggage. It's always a relief to be free from my burden. Across the border, he left us for dead. Got married to some floozy who owned the brothel. Had a bunch of kids and they got divorced and got hitched to another one. Ran a bootlegged business from what I could gather. Got rich off of it, lived in a mansion. His third wife until he died sometime in the early 80s. Went peacefully in his own bed. Hell's hot enough for that man. Never did like the cold very much. That. Every time was over. Went up to his house for sandwiches and soup. Aunt Eustace prattled on about family gossip as we ate. By the time we finished, I just felt normal again. That was before the sun had set on the horizon. Things were different in the dark. The house creaked. Shadows crawled across the walls, and all semblance of rationality goes right out the window. It's almost 1 in the morning. I'm tired as hell, but I doubt very much that I'll get any sleep tonight. If I close my eyes, I see a little boy with a dead complexion standing in the snow. A little boy with a deadness skull and the mad glow of crimson flames dancing in his remaining eye. It bears teeth and a feral smile, and that'll be that. I'll end up coming back downstairs to watch infomercials with all the lights on. Waiting for the sun to rise. Things are different in the dark. But if you don't believe me, ask Uncle Henry. He knows all about it. As a transplanted southerner, I know what it's like to roast in the summertime heat. Even up here in the Northeast, there have been some days where the humidity is downright ignorant. How my Uncle Henry phrases it, carrying the word to a dirty expert. Sweet Jesus, he'll say. It's downright ignorant. Come July and August, Uncle Henry's farm is my sanctuary from the urban madness, the hot asphalt, shimmering
So I do
glass.
4x blocks
This
each.
property's an oasis where the sun sets early behind treetops. The weather
It's
vane
like this
on the
side.
peak of
I
the
don't
barn
want
roof
this.
is always fluttering.
Oh wait,
and
oh
no
shit.
westerly breeze. The farmhouse is mostly shielded from the midday sun.
Like it's like the wind. Like when you use Asian server, like it's like the wind. Like you can actually get the wind. I don't know.
Henry's farm's a good place. And old Uncle Henry is a good fella. Henry's
If you live in Asia, that's what happen all day. I
and
don't
he's
know.
a lot of very unusual tales to tell. Sometimes they're whimsical in nature, sometimes they're thought-provoking, sobering. Every now and
No,
then,
I don't want to craft a wood.
he'll tell me a story that's pure nightmare fuel. I'd like to think that the latter variety is
I'll leave
wildly
my
embellished
base. I don't
by
care.
fabrication.
Generally.
Honestly, I have my doubts. As my uncle is fond of saying when I became skeptical in the face of some bizarre turn in our conversation, ah, hell, it's a big, weird old world out there, kiddo, and really don't know jack shit about it. Uncle Henry had been rambling around the house by himself since my aunt passed last year, and he's always glad for some company. He'll toss a couple six-packs into his old cooler, and we'll retreat to the comfort of the wooden swing chairs, the ones that face the valley. Chairs that Henry had built with his own hands in the same year Elvis was famously censored on the Ed Sullivan Show. Before long, we'll end up falling into our long-running conversation about all the world, everything in it. Just shooting the breeze, relaxing, philosophical, pass away a devastatingly hot Sunday afternoon. Last Sunday, as usual, our discussion veered into the 14 realms of the very strange. This time, he claimed that Henry had once seen a UFO floating above his very own field in June of 1955. Came out of the house after lunch, and there it was, hovering down in the valley, set irrigation pond. It was floating 3 feet off the ground, so perfectly goddamn still. I could have been hanging from a string, like a giant ball bearing, seams, rivets, perfect globe made out of some kind of highly polished metal. Shone so bright in the sunlight, it's hard to look at it. Didn't make any sound, but it was a craft. And yeah, I do believe it was a piloted craft, you understand? It was a spaceship, no doubt about it. Anyhow, I stood there with my jaw on the ground and stared at the craft for a minute, maybe two, and shot straight up in the air. It was gone in a single second, just incredibly fast. Tell you right now, no one on this earth, living or dead, no one could have ever constructed such a marvelous machine. Well, why didn't you take a picture of the thing, Henry? I demanded. You didn't think to run for your camera? I mean, come on, man. Henry flapped a dismissive hand and scowled. I couldn't move a muscle if my life depended on it. Sometimes people freeze up like a rabbit when they're scared. It happens to the best of us. I asked, why were you scared? And Henry thought about it carefully for a while before answering, taking time to mull it over while he tore the plastic off a fresh pack of smokes. Because it wasn't right, he said. No way in hell that thing would have been able to fly, let alone hover around in midair. How can a round lump of metal zoom around like that? It defied the laws of physics, the laws of every other goddamn thing. That craft really was alien in every sense of the word. It scared me. Henry looked thoughtful. He went quiet for a while, and I watched him from the corner of my eye. I had a feeling that Henry was about to push me down the proverbial rabbit hole once again. I thought, well, it should be interesting. And I patiently waited for him to start. It's a big, weird old world out there. He lit a cigarette with his tarnished old Zippo and hacked into his fist. He wheezed. Not so long ago, his land was still uncultivated and wild. Most of the farms on this road didn't even exist until the late 40s. Thousands of years, this whole area was nothing but woods. People who lived in these forests believed in the elemental forces, light and dark. He blew out a swirling cloud of blue-tinted smoke, luxurious exhalation, and a talking bit. When he was done, he said, it happened a few years after the UFO incident. Sometime in the early 60s, I got let go by the electric company. Back to the farm. The whole thing started with me waking up early one morning and saying to myself, fuck it, I'm going rabbit hunting. Spruck laying on the back of the farm was always teeming with little buggers. You can hunker down just about anywhere, bag one in no time. His lips twitched for a brief smile. There 1 second, gone the next. Rabbit stew, kiddo. Used to love it. Grandma made a great rabbit stew. Had it many years. I bring myself to shoot it in a picture. Maybe because I know the time is coming. I grimaced at this and said, don't say that. Got a lot of good years left. I don't know about that. Anyway, to the back of the property, I hid behind a clump of sumac. 22. So it's just barely peeking over the treetops when the light hit the morning mist near the lighthouse. Henry looked me in the eyes and said, "I'll tell you something, kiddo. Under the right circumstances, when light meets dark, there's magic in the air. Sometimes it's a good sort of magic. Sometimes it's bad. Either way, no denying it's real. If you don't believe that, go out in the fields tonight around 8 o'clock, maybe you'll see for yourself. Stand there real quiet, just watch. Maybe you'll see it happen. And you'll know that I'm right." So I'm sitting there as the light pushes back the dark, waiting and watching a nice-sized rabbit. And I'll be damned if someone doesn't come falling out of the gully. Leaning on a stick to keep himself from falling over into the dirt. I sat perfectly still. I watched this dirty, bedraggle-looking apparition come hobbling into the daylight. A real bad feeling in my stomach. The only thought in my head was, stick broke in two. He fell at the edge of the field. The sound of his body hitting the dirt snapped me out of my trance. I come running over. I saw it was a native fella. Older guy with gray hair. Soaked through with blood. Uncle Henry, the old coolers that sat on the ground between us, fished out a fish. Taking a pause to gather his thoughts. I put my rifle down and rolled him over. The left side of his face was hanging in shreds. I could see his teeth through the hole in his cheek, torn up like he got mauled by a jungle cat. I say to him, "Holy Jesus, what done this to you?" He was too far gone to speak. Laying down in the dirt, let him die. Henry stopped to light another smoke. He was seized by another fit of coughing, one dragged closer to the grave. He squinted at me through the haze and gasped. I thought he was gone. I tried to close his eyelids. Heard somewhere you're supposed to do that when someone dies.
Go back in the water.
Alright.
You go back in the water and...
I reached for a fresh beer of my own. I had a feeling I was going to need it. Yeah, I definitely never heard this one before. That's crazy. What happened to him? Hush, Henry snapped. I'm getting there. I made a zipper motion across my lips and motioned for him to continue. Henry speared me with a sour glance and continued. I hightailed it back to the house and told your grandparents. Mom forced me to sit down and drink a mug of tea with some rum and calm my nerves. But your granddad, not your real one, mind you, he jumped in the truck to go see for himself. When he came back, he was white as a ghost. They called the cops. Henry fished another smoke out of his rumpled pack, taking his time with the procedure. He was staring off into the distance, gazing into the faded past with the failing eyes of a man in the twilight hour of his own existence. Painful to think about it, but it's true. Henry probably isn't long for this world. And they'll miss him when he's gone. He had to be from 55, Henry said. So we called the local native reserve. 55 wasn't much more than a handful of dilapidated shacks standing in a clearing in the bush. You can get there on a dirt road, let off country road 55. I've never been there myself. I knew from Fred Walsh, the fella could drop in most days by the corn hunter. So quiet. It wasn't wise to go off the dark road. If you didn't want to come back with your ass kicked up in your shoulder blades. There wasn't much care for company after business hours. When the cops finally showed up, they went out in the field and they gawked at the body like it was a display at a carnival sideshow. One of them yelled, "God damn!" Old Chief got liquored up and tried to wrestle a bear. The other one laughed until he was wiping tears from his eyes. They had no respect at all. Take any pictures, comb the area for evidence of love. They just rolled up the body in our tarp and heaved it into the truck with their squad car. I could hardly believe it. We sat quietly for a little meadow in the valley. We're an ugly people living in a beautiful world. And inside, always been us versus them. That's the way it always will be. Anyway, just as we're finishing lunch, a homicide detective named Callahan comes rolling up the driveway in an unmarked Plymouth Fury. He's the most serious-looking man I ever met. Face like a rock. He interviewed me and your grandpa at the kitchen table. Asked a lot of questions. The one that really stuck with me. Have you ever seen any unusual tracks out in the field? Hey, your grandpa said, what do you mean exactly? I think Callahan just shrugs it off. Left me wondering why a homicide detective would investigate an animal attack. Before we left, he advised us to start locking doors at night. Mama asked if we were in danger. He said, ma'am, we're always in danger. Start locking the door. Henry smiled a little, nodded to himself, pitched his cigarette butt in the grass, and crushed it with the sole of his battered old work boots. Willie Van Klein came by later that afternoon and was a Dutchman that owned the apple orchard down the road. Of course, the apple trees were gone long before we were ever born. The entire orchard withered and died back in the early 70s. It shriveled up and died, and there wasn't anything Willie could do about it. Committed suicide that winter. Cut his own throat with a straight razor. That's a story right there. See, before the Van Kleins bought that land, it belonged to some kind of Anabaptist sect cult. Apparently, those folks straight out of Henry. Stay on track. Willie came by later on and, right, Henry grunted. Oh, Willie said his whole house woke up just before midnight to his dogs losing their mind in the kennel. Howling, carrying on like Satan himself was standing in the barnyard. Jumped out of bed to see what was happening. Wham! Slammed against the back door, hard to crack it right down the middle. He came running downstairs in his nightshirt. Get away from my house or I'll shoot! But everyone was outside screaming like a banshee. He kept pounding away at the door. And they said, to hell with this. He blasted a hole through his own door with a shotgun. That thing outside let a yowl like nothing he ever heard before. Took off for the woods. It was moving too fast to get a good look at it through the window. Saw it was big, running on all fours. A set of big twisting antlers on either side of his head like a mature buck. Deer ain't generally known to come knocking at your door. I didn't know any animal that could take both barrels of a shotgun, not even bleed. And a single drop of blood was spilled. Ran off without a scratch. Henry smirked crookedly at his beer can and shook his head. Now everyone knew Willie Van Klein was a fan of law enforcement. Rules in general. Would have made a damn fine Viking warrior, that man. Oh, Willie didn't call the cops, took matters into his own hands. But his hound on his scent followed the Kirsch trail into the woods. Headed straight for the 55.
It's a bad idea.
I motioned her to stop and say, okay, so after I tried to kick in his door, it headed for the reserve and attacked the guy you found the next morning, right? I'm understanding this correctly. Henry shrugged and said, maybe he was heading back to the reserve where it came from. We had absolutely no proof of that. The more we talked about it, the more it seemed likely. See how fast it happened. It's us versus them. You don't have a question of what you're doing. Let's just do it. That line of thinking will be our downfall. Anyway, we should come rattling up the road in his old Plymouth as we were standing in the driveway with Fred Walsh. Now, it just so happened Fred was one of their best customers out there in the 55. Freddie was a good fella. But he was drunk. Built off a disability check for his time in Korea. Lost 3 fingers, gained a permanent limp during the battle. Freddie said he drank the deal with a phantom penny in his Mrs. Fingers. And corn liquor was all he could afford on a fixed income. I always thought he would have been drunk either way in hell. It didn't matter. He was good drunk. Always cracking wise, smiling away. Not a mean bone in his body, that man. Well, Fred didn't sound like he was 3 sheets to the wind just yet, but he was definitely on his way. I explained the situation and said, well, shit. Yeah, that's a hell of a thing, ain't it? But I'll tell you right now, you guys should probably stay away from there. It's not going to be feeling very hospitable right now, if you know what I mean. Willie told him there's no harm in trying. And a growl in his voice said we were going whether Fred Walsh liked it or not. So we piled in the car and Fred took us out to the 55.
Alright.
Like I said earlier, it wasn't much to look at, just a little collection of piss-poor shanties laying around a big community fire pit. When we pulled up, saw a few of the men sitting around a smoking fire in the pit. They hadn't looked very impressed. I was visiting. Fred shaked his head at us and said, oh boy, here we go. Told you, didn't I? Just let me do the talking. These boys ain't in the mood to make new friends. Fred Walsh, he walked up to the fire with his hat in his hand. I'm real sorry to be coming out like this, but we have a mutual problem on our hands. Whatever it is that attacked the old fella, say Fred paid a visit my friend here. Tried to break his door down and damn near got inside. Said his dog got on the set and followed it here. That's not assuming anything, you understand? We're hoping you might be able to tell us what's going on. So they all sat there and they ignored us for a while, staring in the fire, sipping their whiskey. Finally, a big old boy with a scar on his cheek, braided hair, looks up and says, you're interrupting a wake. Get back to your car and fuck off right now. I say we were outnumbered 3-1, and I thought, yep, it's time to go. Big Willie wasn't going anywhere just yet. He walked up close to the fire, he said, you people know what he's talking about. I can see it in your faces. I don't want any trouble from you, but I won't leave until you tell us what you know about this thing. Big old boy with a scar gave Willie a grin like a knife. Said, what do you mean by that? Fred jumps in and goes, now Elwood, Willie didn't mean nothing by it. Oh, but it was already out there. Someone else sitting by the fire stands up, says he means engines, redskins, walkers, isn't that right? Henry paused.
My new base! What is in here? What is?
He grimaced as the cold carbonation hit his parched throat. I can see Willie getting mad. Across those tree trunk arms, he said, you're putting words in my mouth. I didn't mean that. Look, I'm sorry we're disturbing you. I am, but I'm not going to leave till you tell me what I want to know. Something tried to kick in my door last night. It was big, it had antlers, and it wasn't a buck. It ran like a jungle cat. This thing walked right past my chickens, went from my house instead. I shot the son of a bitch. I didn't give a damn. The hell is it? They looked around at each other. About one, they started to laugh. It was nervous laughter, right? They were scared. Willie didn't see that, of course. He just saw people laughing. He wasn't about to... Oh, shit. Henry's beer slipped out of his hand, hit the grass in an eruption of foam. He cursed under his breath and waved off my attempt to retrieve fumble fingers.
Fuck!
He grumbled and he poured the rest out.
I really hate that. Like, bullshit here.
Lately, I hardly got the feeling in my hands.
I don't know where to go.
I reluctantly passed him another beer. I could see that Henry was already getting drunk. I wondered about the condition of his liver. He had a hard time popping it open. I had to restrain the urge to pluck the can out of his hand to do it for him, which would have undoubtedly pissed him off to no end. I was swamped by another curling wave of that melancholic headache. It'd be hard to watch him go. He's one of the good ones. Willie looked like he just had enough, Henry said. That Elwood character was more than ready to square up. Someone was about to get hurt. Fred Walsh waved his arms like a referee and hollered, calm down, come on now. This ain't gonna settle nothing. Everybody relax. Elwood stared him down until Freddie looked away. He said, did you ever tell your buddies about those fingers you lost? Fred did a double take. Got this look for a second. I don't know, it just looked different. Like a Different kind of person entirely. He was there and gone in a flash, but I caught him. It was just Freddy again. All red in the face, grasping for a comeback. Mumbled something like, I don't know what you're talking about. Put down his feet. Elwood grinned, that furious grin at him.
Fuck, no, bro, what the fuck?
Sure. He turned to the rest of us and said, let me tell you people something. Winter lives in our hearts. Your boogeyman is closer than you think. He walked up right close to Freddy, still smiling away. He said, you come for me. I'll be waiting for you. Way to go. We all stopped dead to that. Henry snorted. He didn't know what he was getting at. Something about the way he said it made the hair stand up on the back of my neck. And Freddy got all flustered and said, what the hell is that supposed to mean? Elwood was already walking away. He walked into his shack, slammed the door behind him. Esther got up from the fire and went to their own home. And you noticed her standing there all by herself. Time to go. Freddy threw his hands up. See, I told you. Didn't I? Come on. They all jumped in the car, and by Jesus, I'm ever glad to be leaving. I had that real bad feeling in the pit of my stomach again. I know it's starting to gloomy in the room. I don't want to be out there after dark. Henry looked at me and his lips pressed into a tight little line. His eyes were blank and shrouded by the past. He was living the memory. I was right there with him. We maybe got halfway back to the main road when your grandpa pipes up and says, what do you mean, Freddy? The thing he said about your finger. Freddy glared at him in the rearview mirror and stopped the car. His face was redder than cherry tomatoes, right? He didn't say nothing for a moment, just sat there looking straight ahead and goes, hold on, fellas, I gotta take a piss. I said, Jesus, Freddy, you can't wait a few minutes? Freddy goes, hell no, I'm about to burst, give me a minute. Wait. He never comes back. I went out looking for him, but Freddy Walsh was nowhere to be seen. Walked into the woods, vanished. Took the goddamn keys with him. Henry fumbled another cigarette out of his pocket. He stared at it and said, these things will be the death of me, I suppose. Watched them murder your grandpa, your Uncle Ernest, Aunt Gertie. God knows who else. I still can't give him up. Some folks die of old age, others die of circumstances they can't control. The rest of us, we end up killing ourselves one way or another. Why is that? I pressed my lips together, an unhappy little line, and stuck my hand out for another smoke. I attended all three of those funerals, but there I was, still lighting up the coffin nail.
Man, I built this shit. All this shit.
The truth is that no one actually believes in their own minds. Not really. You could stand in line and watch 1,000 people die at the hangman's noose before you. When your turn comes, you'll still somehow be surprised when a circle of rope drops over your own head. It's just how we are. So, this century, we simply can't imagine the world plugging along without us. I said it with a yawn and a dismissive shrug. Sometimes it's better to respond to an uncomfortable question than to answer at all. You understand what I mean? I said, I don't know, Henry. Who knows what makes people tick? We do what we do, we don't question why. What's with all the existential mentality stuff anyway? You got lots of good years left. We need to be talking like that. If there's winter in our hearts, Henry said. His voice was tinged with sorrow. It's true. Most of the time, people choose to do the right thing. Some would rather howl along with the icy winds. Those people are damned. Henry paused to pick a flake of tobacco off his lips. He studied the lit end of his cigarette, morbid fascination. Sun's already gone behind the tree line, he murmured. Lights fade into darkness. You feel that bad magic gathering in the shadows. Hairs were standing up on my arms. Now, I said, the hell with it. He didn't come back. it out of here. Found a flashlight in Freddy's trunk. It's a good thing, too, because it's so dark I could barely see my hand in front of my face. I almost shit myself every time I heard something scuffling around in the woods. I was convinced it was following us, creeping along and watching behind the trees. I didn't know what it was. I was positive it was there. It wanted to eat us alive. Henry scrubbed the back of his hands across his mouth and nodded to himself. I was scared, but even worse, I felt helpless. Somehow that's even worse than being shit-ass terrified. Much worse. I knew there wouldn't be a goddamn thing I could do when it came to us. Fear and helplessness was just as nourishing as this thing that looked flesh and blood. Longing in my heart to drink it all. I heard a branch break close to the tree line. Shone a flashlight in the woods. Just for a split second, I saw something peeking out from behind the tree. A set of burning eyes glaring at me. 8 or 9 feet off the ground, I saw what looked like
Henry, hello.
misshapen
Hello.
an enormous pair of antlers.
Shit. Well,
Heartbeat or two. I said, that's probably business. But we ran towards the light in a blind panic. There was a grandma on a farm truck. She came looking for us, God bless her. I'd never been so relieved in my life. I asked her, "Do you see something out there?" Oh, we get to it. They dropped Willie off. Ran straight home to call the police. Told them, Freddie disappeared in the woods. Left his car behind. They said I'd send someone out to look for him. I heard of it the next morning. I guess all the fear and adrenaline drove me right in. Right out like a light as soon as my head hit the pillow. I woke up to your grandma hammering on my door like a goddamn cannon. She yelled, "Get up! Policeman! He wants to talk to you." Henry took a deep swallow of beer and a sour face. Poured out the rest and tossed the empty in the cooler. Oh, I was pissed. He grumbled. I guess I was about comatose that night. It was almost 10 o'clock. The ball was already out in the field. I came downstairs, found Callahan sitting at the kitchen table with a cup of coffee. He smiled at Ma, asked if she could speak to me alone for a while. She went outside to pick some peas for supper, and as soon as she stepped out the door, Callahan stopped smiling. He said, "Get yourself some coffee. Have a seat. I need to talk to you." I asked him if it was about Freddie. Callahan just gave me a straight look. He said, "Go on, have a seat." So I been up all night. Plucked a book in his pocket, sat down on the table, sealed the letter up. Callahan tapped with his fingers and said, "We pulled this out of a dead man's hand last night. A fellow named Elwood Allen, you know?" I nodded. I said, "I don't know him exactly, but I met him." Callahan looked like he was satisfied with that. He said, "Someone killed him last night. Kicked his door in, butchered him. Mr. Allen stabbed his attacker with a letter opener during the struggle. Found the bolt laying on the floor in the shanty. Elwood and his murderer. Their missing pal, Frederick Walsh." Henry lit another cigarette and coughed out a lungful of smoke. "I just fell out of my chair," he said. "It says the cop, holy hell, what happened?" Callahan shook his head. It looked like he was struggling to find the right words. And finally he said, "How well did you know Freddie Walsh?" I said, "I knew Freddie for 7 years. Pretty well, I guess." Callahan leaned in closer, asked, "You know why he left the service?" I said he left because he got hurt in the war. Callahan looked him in the eye and said, "Yeah. He lost 3 fingers in Korea, but it didn't happen the way you'd think it did. Freddie had himself a dishonorable discharge as he was caught doing something awful to a young girl. Caught red-handed by her father. Villagers had put his head on a chopping block. Right then and there, another enlisted man heard the commotion, tried to make a deal with him. Take just a finger and spare Freddie's life. They dickered around it for a while. They ended up settling on 3 fingers. A good hard kick to the kneecap. They winced and absently rubbed my own kneecap. There was no good spot to suffer a nasty fracture. The patella was a particularly bad one. He was lucky to get out of there alive, though, wasn't he? Fucking scumbag. What happened to him after that? Gray was court-martialed. 2 years in Portsmouth. Callahan said it should have been 20 as far as he was concerned. Somehow Freddie got lucky once again. Bad people often have the best luck. He was even awarded a disability check when he got released. So he ended up moving here. Made some new friends. During that time he moved on to hurt people and commit murder. Callahan said Freddie had a chest in his bedroom full of pictures, locks of hair, all kinds of mementos, but that wasn't enough for Freddie. He had to take it one step further. He started eating them. I grunted in disgust. Jesus Christ. And you had no idea? Not at all. Ever so quietly. He had bags of human flesh in his icebox. I still wouldn't have known. He became the monster that looked on the inside. Lost himself as a winner in his heart, mind, body, and soul. Henry's voice dropped even lower, and I had to listen carefully to catch his quavering words. Callahan told me Elwood was still alive when they arrived on the scene. He said one word, Whitaker. He slipped away. Now, Creed, sometimes call it by that name. Others know it as Wendigo. The monster lives inside of them. Rose and wind that howls in their soul. You can believe whatever you want, but the detective told me you were goddamn serious, believe me. He told me Freddie died before he could finish until he got back into a man. Callahan said Freddie's corpse was a half man, half monster hybrid from the depths of hell. One leg like a goat, one antler protruding from his skull, his face elongated into a hairy snout. It looked like a childhood nightmare. He said it eating him alive while he stabbed him with a letter opener. You can even imagine the horror that man experienced before he died. He got over for a minute before I told him Elwood was expecting him to come back. He even said so before he left. He mentioned something about Freddie's fingers, too. Like he knew what Freddie had become. Callahan said I wouldn't be surprised if Elwood was the enlisted man to save Freddie's hide in Korea. Lifelong friends, those two. He knew Freddie better than anyone I knew. Well, Henry exclaimed. My jaw dropped on the table and I heard that. I said, well, holy shit. Callahan had to laugh in spite of himself. I needed a stiff drink and 12 hours of sleep. He said, yep. They were thick as thieves. You have to wonder if Elwood was somehow involved in the murders. It's hard to imagine that any decent man would stand behind such a degenerate self-image. We'll never know. Elwood's neighbors, they torched his house when he left. Doused the place in gasoline, set it on fire. He said the fire would purify the ground, and that's fine by me. It's accidental fire. 2 people dead. No surviving family on either side. A lot easier than the truth. Callahan stood up to leave and said, you better count your blessings if you're still alive. Freddie took you out there so you can get rid of anyone who might be close to discovering his secret. You didn't stand a chance. Because you didn't have one thing that could stop him. He held up a letter opener. It said Silver. Dropped in at the library in town before I came here. And I gather some legend saying he killed Silver. Elwood knew that. You folks. You would have been shit out of luck. Callahan started to leave when he turned around at the door and gave me a real somber look. 2 patrolmen who came out here yesterday had been fired. New world on the horizon, better world. There'll be no room for people like that. Have yourself a good day. This conversation same valley where Henry had once your foe. This world of ours is filled with mystery. And he shattered the somber atmosphere with a tremendous cracker of a fart. Fuck it, let's go inside and cool off. Next time you come out, I'm going to tell you about what happened to Willie Van Klein. Don't you? That's the story. After a little supper, I took Henry's advice and I wandered back in. I stood there still, watching the sunset go over the horizon. The daylight faded to darkness and I swore that I would feel something.
Right, man.
Henry's stories create their very own tragic magic. The good kind that takes you away from yourself for a while. That's kind of magic, really. Henry's farm is a good place. Henry is a good fella. I'll be back soon enough, rest assured. But for now, the story's come to an end. It's time to bid you all. Hey there kids, it's me, Mr. Creepypasta, and before we get started on tonight's story, I want to let you know about tonight's author, or that is to say, a book available from tonight's author. Tripping Over Twilight, a collection of short horror and supernatural stories, endless Halloween nightmares unleashed. Written by T.W. Grimm and available now on Amazon. Get yours on Kindle, hardcover, and paperback. The link is in the description down below, and now, on to tonight's story. If there's one thing I hate, it's when a story ends on a cliffhanger. Damn it, I don't want to wait to find out how the story ends. I need to know right here and now. The last time I was out of the farm, Henry had rambled off on one of his tangents and mentioned the gruesome death of one Willie Van Klein, a longtime neighbor who ran an apple orchard down the road. I'd heard him mention someone named Willie Van Klein a time or two in the past, but I didn't know who he was. I wasn't even aware that there'd been an apple orchard in the area.
Oh.
According to Henry, Willie's operation had suffered some kind of catastrophic failure in the early 70s, and Willie himself committed suicide in gruesome fashion. He cut his own throat with straight razor. According to Henry, Willie Van Klein's unfortunate fate came with a disturbing backstory. He told me to remind him about it the next time that I paid him a visit. Unfortunately, real life has a shitty habit of getting in the way of our desires. The better part of a month went by before I was finally able to clear an entire day and drive out for a visit. I picked up a couple six-packs and a bucket of chicken on my way over to the city, and then I burned down the country roadside, 20 over the speed limit, but let it bleed, pumping on the stereo. Curiosity was eating me alive. Henry's stories usually unfold organically over the course of our conversation, but I was too impatient to spend half the day talking about the installation of weeping tile and the rising price of feed corn before we got down to story time. 20 minutes after I rapped on the front door, I had Henry sitting at his kitchen table with a beer in his hand and a wary look in his eye. What are you so fired up about? He demanded. Barely got in the door, for Christ's sake. Can't you just relax? Talk about the weather for a damn minute? Last time I was here, you asked me to remind you about your neighbor down the road, Willie Van Klein. You said, now that's a story. You remember? Here I am, bearing gifts of food and drinks, so tell me the story. Henry goggled at me in surprise. He wheezed. Well, shit, I said I'd tell you about that. I don't know, maybe not, kiddo. Not good to speak ill of the dead. I pleaded. Come on, Henry, don't do this to me. I never even knew the man, so you're basically talking about a complete stranger from my perspective. Henry still looked doubtful, so I added, you're the one who brought it up. Come on, make with a story, old man.
Oh,
Man.
right than that, shitbird.
Henry grinned.
Guess you're right.
I suppose you're right. You wouldn't know Willie from a hole in the ground.
He died of reborn.
Died before you were born. He and his wife Ingrid, they're friends of the family. Good neighbors who worth their weight in gold. Times are tough, you know. Remember that? I shrugged and said, I don't know any of my neighbors. I prefer it that way. Henry snorted. You live in a fancy high-rise and the big shitty. That's a different situation entirely. All your neighbors are a bunch of white-collar assholes, expensive briefcases, Ken-doll haircuts. Don't be a cranky old bastard, Henry. Not everyone can be a farmer. Like it or not, the world needs white-collar assholes, too. Henry scoffed at this and said, the world would get along just fine without him, as far as I'm concerned. Now, before I begin, I'll go ahead and remind you of something. Mr. College Boy Know-It-All. It's a big, weird old world out there. We don't know jack shit about it. People pull an awful lot of assumptions straight out of their ass, and then clap themselves on the back for making shit up. So, let me take the Great Pyramids, for example. Some folks think it would be impossible for people to create such a thing back then. Other people disagree. In the end, it doesn't matter how those pyramids came to be. Space aliens, the work, sweat of 10,000 slaves, it don't matter. Just one way or another, they got built. Well, he doesn't give a shit about you. Respect him, just is. Henry lit a cigarette and let it smolder in his favorite ashtray. A 3-pound rectangle of glazed ceramic that was probably 50 years old. He looked at me through the smoke with mild, half-lidded eyes and hopped open his beer. Fuck it. Sorry. Ain't noon yet, but I reckon it's close enough. Now that orchard, there's the Van Klein, that orchard. The labor of love. They bought the property in the 30s, planted all those trees by hand. The bank gave old Noah Van Klein a sweetheart of a deal. 100 acres of marble land. Made 15 acres of first growth flooring. Irrigation ponds. 20-foot well already dug, cap. Goddamn steal for the price. You don't know the story behind why it was standing unoccupied, that is. No one from the area wanted anything to do with it. Henry heaved himself out of his chair and pulled a couple plates out of the cupboard. Let's get some food in this before we get too deep into that beer. Grab a loaf out of the bread box, would ya? Butter's in the dish over there. We sat down to our primitive lunch of meat and bread, and Henry continued talking between mouthfuls of chicken. The last people who lived in that acreage was a set of Anabaptists, 100 or so in total. Called themselves brethren. Their leader was a grim reaper-looking son of a bitch named Helmut Schneider. Tall, pale, scarecrow of a fellow. Beard that hung down to his chest. Scratch farmers mostly. I wouldn't roll in the whole.
No, it's fine. I'm gonna leave that on. It's like awesomeness. I don't know.
Catholic or Lutheran back then, few Orthodox. But they tolerated the brethren because they kept them themselves. So it's rumored that Helmut Schneider was a doomsday fanatic. That made people a tad nervous. Having yourself some religion's all fine and good. Fanaticism, powder keg. Helmut Schneider was a deeply disturbed man. It was a rumor he'd make his people congregate in the barnyard every Sunday for an outdoor church service. Rain, shine, snowstorm, didn't matter. Emma told anyone who asked that the open sky was the ceiling of God's divine cathedral. He'd yell, he'd
It's like a
scream,
mushroom house, so it is.
judgment day.
I don't know.
No more.
But yeah. It's fine. I have black resources. There's no jack shit that I can build a fucking house. That is resources jack shit.
Make them all stand in a line with their eyes closed. And he would beat the living tar out of them with a wood handle for their sins. I snorted. Yeah, fuck that. Don't let someone do that to me. That's crazy. Well, Henry mused. I wouldn't either, I suppose. Most of them didn't know any better. They were probably born into that life. That's all they'd ever known. They didn't get away with doing something like that for very long. Those were different times. Yeah, your own grandma almost broke a wooden ladle over my head. She did it because I kicked over a kerosene lamp while I was horsing around with your dad. I damn near caught the shed on fire. He got a few good whacks with the belt just for being there when it happened. Today, that'd be child abuse. No, if he'd bat an eye or something like that back then. I winced in sympathy and said, never knew that side of Grandma. Yeah, I didn't. Ouch. Yeah, well, I won't say it's the right thing to do, but we'll say I probably deserved it. Anyway, even though most folks weren't too comfortable with the goings-on of the farm, Brother Angel himself didn't bother anyone. People left him alone. When the First World War broke out, public opinion started to change. The brethren claimed their religion didn't permit them to enlist. They call themselves conscientious objectors. Well, they didn't sit very well with most people. Their own sons being shipped off to the meat grinder across the pond. Yeah, I can imagine there'd be something hard feelings over that. Oh, that was just beginning, Henry snorted. A few months after the war broke out, Helmut wakes up one morning, tells his people God came to him in their dreams. He says God ordered them to build a giant cross in the middle of their cornfield. The good Lord wanted it to stand at least 100 feet high, 50 feet across. The old bastard put those people to work that very morning. The cross was sticking out of the ground not more than 6 days ago. Henry put his hand on his stomach and grimaced. He pushed his plate away and lit another smoke. I noticed he hadn't put much food on his plate, even less. I could see in his face that he wasn't feeling well. I wondered if the beer maybe wasn't such a great idea. I had a nagging suspicion Henry's liver isn't doing so hot these days. Helmut's cross is 110 feet from the ground where he died. And it looked probably the tallest structure in the area at the time. I got an old picture of it in a shoebox somewhere. It's taken some time in the 30s, I guess. In that picture you can see the cross made out of tree trunks. Lashed them all together with rope and chain, dug a deep bastard of a hole, dropped it in. Not even begin to guess how goddamn heavy it must have been. How much cement they must have poured in that hole to make the damn thing stable. Every single man, woman, and child old enough to help were involved in some way. They worked 6 days and nights to get that thing in the ground. And on the 7th day, Helen commanded him to rest. A lot of them just dropped where they stood and slept on the ground. And let out a low whistle and said, shit, that's nuts. So why did this dude think God wanted a giant cross in their cornfield? Did he ever explain it to anyone? According to Helmut, the entire world was about to be submerged in a new flood. Only this time it'd be a flood of murder, madness, and sin. Like Jesus supposedly took all the world's collective sin into himself. He's being crucified. Helmut's cross would absorb this flood of evil like a sponge and save our souls from drowning. Guess he was referring to the mayhem going on in the First World War. Henry gave me a somber nod, sipped his beer. Now, people have been pretty tolerant of these wackos up to this point. Everyone was pretty goddamn mad about this big, crooked eyesore of a cross towering over the landscape. The reeve of the township came out in person and ordered Helmut to take it down. The Helmut called the reeve foul puppet of Satan and kicked him off his land. In the end, there wasn't much anyone could do about it. The cross was there to stay. It wasn't long before something awful strange started to happen. The wood kept getting darker and darker in color and started to smell bad. If you're downwind from the damn thing, the stink just about make your eyes water. People said it smelled like sewage and sulfur. Rotten flesh. Just an awful stench. I gave him a skeptical look and said, "Really weird. What could cause that? Some kind of fungus?" Henry offered me a cryptic smile and opened a fresh beer. Maybe. In a manner of speaking, anyhow. No more of this chicken? I patted my stomach and shook my head. Henry cleared the table, his movements slow and careful. I could tell his arthritis was acting up again, but I'd be better to ask if he wanted some help. Henry is a proud man. His independence means everything to him. Henry finished cleaning up and stood at the window for a while, gazing into the forgotten past and dusty panes of glass. Not long after the war ended, the township evicted the brothers from their land for not paying their property tax. They had to physically drag a helmet out of his cabin, ranting that the Lord would demand a blood sacrifice if anyone ever removed the cross, just with a whole lot of Old Testament hellfire, brimstone on top of his lung. Tossed them all off the property, told them to beat it. Never saw him again. Straight away, the bank tried to pay someone to take that cross down. Every handyman and contractor in the entire country flatly refused to go anywhere near the damn thing. They had a hell of a time trying to sell the land. No one wanted anything to do with it. Not with that fucking nightmare looming all over the field. After a while, everyone in the area just kind of got used to it. As more years went by, people started believing maybe Helmut was right. Maybe it needed to be there. Guess there's no such thing as homeowners associations back then. I smirked, and Henry let out a dry little chuckle. He said, "It's human nature. When wanted gets introduced in your life, everyone yells about it. And a year or two goes by, everyone gets tired of being mad, so it's accepted as new normal. For years, they're making excuses as to why they actually need things to be that way. By the time the Van Kleins came along, it was pretty much unanimous opinion amongst locals. It was best to leave that awful fucking eyesore right where it was. Although Van Klein didn't like that cross one bit, he didn't want to piss off his neighbor. In the end, he told the bank, so be it. Be damned with that abomination. Maybe the horrid old thing will scare the birds away." Henry wandered back to the table and plunked himself down with a grunt. Not long after that last apple sapling went to the ground, Germany invaded Poland and the Second World War began. Right away, Helmut's cross started rotting again. The war dragged on, the rotten wood started moving under its own bloated weight. It snapped and fell in the evening of August 5th, 1945. Right around the same time we dropped the bomb on Hiroshima. It shattered into a million pieces on impact. The smell was enough to knock you off your feet. All that was left was a stubby, twisted pole that stuck out maybe 8 feet out of the ground. Billy always says it reminded him of a crooked fang. Because of years of erosion was slowly uncovering the skeleton of some gigantic beast. The stump always kind of had a low, unpleasant odor to it. Every time a major conflict or disaster someone killed, it'd start to rot again. It staked to high heaven. Henry plunked down his empty can and nodded at the fridge. "I'm dry, kiddo. Give me another beer. I'll keep going." I obliged with his command with a muttered curse under my breath. Henry popped the tab and held up the can in a mock salute. "Come on now, don't be like that," he grinned. "Respect your elders." Anyway, Noah passed on in the late 50s. Left the orchard to Willie. He was the only son that stuck around and keep the business going. His dad gave him sole ownership of the land and the business. There were some hard feelings about that in the family, but it was Noah's final decision. Wasn't much they could do but grumble. Willie tended the orchard with his family, and the Van Clines made a decent living. They were a good family, and good neighbors. Henry sat back in the chair with a wince and a groan. He poured a few long swallows of beer down his throat with a trembling hand and stifled a belch.
The God.
It used to mean something to be a good neighbor, he said. You looked out for each other. You folks live all cramped together in a concrete beehive. Hell, you simply can't give a shit about many people at once. Not on a personal level. Back in the old days, your neighbors were a lifeline. They helped you take in crops at harvest time, drank to each other's health on the holiday. Gently I interjected. Well, times change, Henry. Henry slapped his hand down on the table and scowled. Yeah, they do change. Usually for the worse. Times started changing for the Van Clines in December of 1969. When Willie's oldest son got a draft card in the mail. Came back 10 months later in a box. You ever seen a broken man as Willie on the day he put Willie Jr. in the ground? He'd always been a big, strong, rambunctious son of a bitch. You know, a man with a big personality. From that day forward, he was diminished. Kind of faded away until he wasn't much more than a shadow of the man he used to be. And all the while, the Vietnam War is raging on. That nasty stump at Elder Schneider's cross kept rotting away in the background, stinking like a corpse, almost oozing with death and corruption. Now, Willie started obsessing over it, always talking about how ugly it was, how wrong it felt whenever he was forced to lay eyes on that awful thing. For Willie, the cross was a constant reminder of what happened to the boy. He starts drinking himself to sleep every night. And he's drinking during the day, too. Booze made it mean. He had an idea that maybe he was taking it out on Ingrid and these other boys, getting free with his hands when he was in the bottle. I tried talking to him about it. He told me to mind my own goddamn business. He could have called the cops at the end, and Henry cut me off with a snort of cynical laughter. In those days, cops didn't care what passed between a man and his family. It was considered a personal matter. Ah, yeah. The good old days, I said, and rolled my eyes. Never said it was all roses back then. Henry countered. Society had its problems. No arguing that. Woman wasn't her husband's property exactly, but he was definitely a junior partnership. I never agreed with any of it. Hell, I believe we should give a woman a crack at running the country. Men been fucking it up for years. Let a woman try her hand at flushing the economy down the shitter. And why the hell not? I gave Henry a sarcastic thumbs up. Very progressive of you, Henry. He grinned and flapped a dismissive hand at me, raising his beer in the other, and another mock salute. Yeah, the good old days, he said. Don't be a jackass. You know, Archie Bunker back, you know that. You want to hear this story or not? I nodded, motioned for him to continue. Anyhow, Ingrid finally had enough of Willie's abuse. She took the kid. She left in December. Exactly 1 year after Willie Jr. got his draft card. Now Willie was crushed. Came over here the day after she left and bawled his eyes out in my garage drunk as a skunk, reeking like a distillery. He kept saying I never meant to hurt him. Goddamn cross, Henry. Can't even get it out of my mind. I can feel in my head every minute of every day. You gotta get yourself together. You gotta stop drinking. Maybe she'll come back if you get sober. He just turned away, started crying even harder. Didn't know what else to say to him, so I just stood there quietly and let him get it all out. When he was done, Willie straightened himself up, wiped his face on his sleeve, and said, all you got left is this orchard, Henry. Where is it? The look on his face was awful, like the soul decaying right along with the remains of Elmer Schneider's cross. He walked out into the night without another word. I didn't see him again for the rest of the winter. Henry stopped to light a smoke. I squashed the urge to ask him, trying to quit. Pulled out a pack of Nicorette, and Henry made a sour face. That stuff's like mint-flavored dog shit, he wheezed. I'd rather chew on a goddamn battery. Trying to quit, are you? I said, yeah, give it up. Hard. Well, good for you. It's not paying good money to yourself cancer. Henry regarded the cigarette clamp between his fingers with disgust. I can't give it up. I tried so many times, I can't do it. I'll be running a marathon anytime soon. Hey, your dad, he could run like the wind when he was younger. He could run and jump like an antelope. I remember we were down at the gully one time. I interrupted his tangent with a polite, yeah, and added, you're telling me about Willie Van Klein? Stay on course, Captain. All right, Willie. Well, I hadn't seen eye to an air. So I dropped by one morning early May to check in on him. It wasn't in the barnyard. I heard his tractor running something around the orchard, so I went looking for him. Found him out of the stump. Dug a deep hole around it with a shovel. Came walking up just as he was looping the length of a chain around the base of the stump. The other end of the chain was hooked onto the tractor hitch. I waved my hands to get his attention. I yelled, you sure you should do this? Willie hollered back, you're goddamn right I should. I stood back and I watched as he slowly tightened up the slack on the chain, hinged ahead a little bit at a time. The chain sank into the rotten wood, and Willie gunned the tractor and snapped. The stump broke off just above the big block of concrete Rutherford had poured to anchor it to the ground. Disintegrated when it hit the dirt, just completely shattered into a million shreds of rotten splatter. Released a blast of stench that made me turn and gag. It smelled like the depths of hell. Henry tipped back his beer, plunked the empty can on the table, and jerked his head at the fridge. I jumped up and fetched us both another round. Henry struggled with the pull tab on the can. He mumbled, attached the scraper blade to the tractor hitch, started filling the hole, rushed into it, butterflies in my stomach. The ugly bastard of the cross had been there for as long as I could remember. Now it was gone. I had a bad feeling that Willie made a terrible mistake. I thought, for Christ's sake, I can't open this fucking thing to save my life. Here, get that open for me, would you? He slid the can across the table, then I popped the tab with mixed emotions. Henry had been doing pretty bad. If he were lowering himself to ask someone else to open his beer for him. I made a mental note to buy him a can tab opener. Yeah, thanks, kiddo. No. A couple days later, Willie came over in a panic. Said, come back to the orchard. I have something you need to see. Go over there with him. I'd be damned if there wasn't some kind of blight creeping over the ground where the cross used to stand. Vegetation was withered up, dying off in a rough circle, 50 feet across. Everything inside the circle was curled up, dried out. There was a low, unpleasant stink in the air. It gives me this helpless look, says, started right after I pulled down the rest of that cross. It's spreading fast. I told him, I don't know. Never seen anything like it. Probably fungus. I spraying it down with a fungicide. He just shakes his head, says, it's not fungus. I asked him what he thought it might be. He didn't answer. He just pointed at the freshly turned dirt and said, don't you see it? Henry gave me a grim smile and said, Jesus, I shit you not. That soil turned blacker than midnight. I realized I was standing inside a circle with earth.
Okay.
I jumped right out of it.
It doesn't work.
Springs, I hailed. Willie ran his hand through his hair. He said, God almighty, Henry, what have I done? I let it all out.
Alright.
Let it all out.
I think I'm gonna see right now, so I don't know.
Stared at each other for a few moments, pointed at the ground and said,
Alright,
I can see it spread.
oh my god.
Good. You can actually see the
Oh my god, a creeper there.
sagging through his very eye.
And a creeper.
Full of life, one second, dying the next. Stood there with my mouth open, watching this thing spread. No, I get out of these boots, Red, pronto. I didn't know what to tell him, Henry said, with his eyes mournful. He'd always been a good neighbor. I felt awful about what was happening to him, but I had a powerful need to get home, get these goddamn contaminated boots off my feet. And I'll admit, a part of me wanted to sneer at him, say, I told you so, you big dumb bastard. But when other people suffer an unfortunate fate, it's comforting to believe it was their own damn fault in the first place. When you believe that, you can pretend such a terrible thing never happened. You know better. When the people are suffering, it's cruel at times. I blinked at the simple, unflinching power of that statement. Slowly, I said, wondering, sometimes I think you need to read a book of your accumulated wisdom, you know. It'd fly off the shelves. I don't have a wise bone in my body, kiddo. Full of bullshit, just like everyone else. Anyway, I can hardly hang on to a pen at all anymore. I ain't writing a book. Shit. Days when I can't even open a beer. You're the writer in the family, not me. You take that bullshit of mine, you write that book, you make yourself $1 million. You have my blessing. Anyhow, I went straight home. I burned those boots out in the fire barrel. And my clothes in there too. Watched it all burn in. Nothing on the bath towel. When it was all burned to ashes, I got in the tub and I scrubbed myself damn near raw. Stop thinking. How far will it go? I was scared to answer. If the radio was spreading the blight, take over Willie's entire property with a little wheat. Then what? Crawl over the ditch, jump across the road, would it reach our own farm? Farther even? I was scared shitless to find out. I didn't have a damn clue what to do about it. Willie called me a few days later. All he said before he hung up the phone was, you need to come see this. I told your aunt I was heading over there to help him with some chores. She scowled and said, he's a louse, drinking and carrying on. Slapped around his wife and kids. What happened to Will Jr. doesn't excuse any of that. Shouldn't even bother yourself with that man. Make him do it himself. Now, I apologized to her, made up some bullshit excuse while I had to go. I drove over there in my truck, and the first thing I noticed when I stepped out on his driveway was how silent. I mean, I couldn't get over it. Usually the barnyard would be boiling away with activity this time of year.
You have alcohol?
Everything was still and quiet as it
I
is.
don't think
I
so.
knock on the front door, Willie comes shambling out onto the veranda. Dirty overalls, a pair of big, mirrored sunglasses. Hair looks like a bird's nest. He says, come out of the orchard. See my ruination. There was a dirt lane that led up to the orchard. I drove us out there in my truck. I didn't get very far, for I jumped onto my brakes and yelled, hot damn, at the top of my lungs. I knew it was coming, but I still couldn't believe the sheer devastation I was looking at. It's the entire 70 acres of fruit trees all gone. All those strong, healthy trees withered and shriveled, row upon row of black, mummified carcasses. It was horrific. Not just the trees either, but all the vegetation, grass, weeds, and all. Everything just as dead could be. All of it gone in just the space of a few days. I was speechless. I threw the truck in reverse, turned back for the house. I'd seen enough. Pulled up in his driveway and sat there in my truck for a while, not talking to anyone. Just sitting there. So I realized it really wasn't smelling so good. In fact, he smelled downright awful. About how fast the blight was spreading, how it killed everything in its path, and I turned to Willie and I said, I'm sorry, but I think you need to get out of my truck right now. I have to go. He smiled a little and went, you want me sitting so close to you? I don't blame you. He got out of the truck, he lumbered around on the driver's side window. I watched him real close with my hand in my pocket.
Yeah.
Your grandpa's 38 special in there. In fact, I brought a gun to see an old friend in dire need. It says a lot about me, a lot about the situation at hand. Probably both. Henry struggled out of his chair and walked over to the big storage closet beside the front door. He hauled open the sliding doors and started digging around inside. Willie leaned down and looked me in the face. Henry said, his voice slightly muffled in the depths of his closet. He said, I'm not long for this world, Henry. It's in me. He pulled down his sunglasses. emerged from the closet with an old shoebox clutched in his bony arms. He dropped it on the table and pointed to his
Oh
eye.
my god.
The whites of Willie's eyes were all rotted brown and yellow. His iris turned from blue to pure black. They were the eyes of a rotten corpse. He stuck out his tongue. Ah, Jesus, I damn near fainted. He's covered in patches of black and purple and brown like it was decaying in his mouth. His teeth turning gray at the gum line. I drew back from the window. I said, "Holy Mother of God, Willie, you need a doctor." Well, Willie just shakes his head and says, "It's not my orchard. There's no cure for that." Fucked up, Henry. So I thought I'd release my boy and set him free, but all I did was unleash a plague on this world. I can stop it, but this land will always be tainted. When he starts crying, oh my Christ, his tears drops of pus from a septic infection. I bit down on a scream and threw the truck in reverse and gunned it down the driveway. He yelled, "You know what I have to do?" As I whipped out to the road, I didn't stop to answer him. I just stomp on that gas pedal and I get the hell out of here. When I get home, I scrub the passenger side of the bench seat with hot water and bleach. Henry sat down and started rifling through the contents of the shoebox. It was filled with stacks of old photographs and Ziploc bags, along with a few miscellaneous trinkets from our family's past. I didn't tell Eustace what happened over there, but couldn't stop thinking about those thick green tears running down to Willie's beard. I was getting ready for bed when it finally dawned on me what Willie had meant when he yelled, "Do you know what I have to do?" I said, "Oh, hell." I told Eustace I had to go check on something out in the field. I drove down the road to Willie's orchard with my heart in my throat. He wouldn't answer the door. It wasn't locked. So I'm lying on the floor in the bathroom. He cut his own throat wide open with a straight razor. He was surrounded by a big, dark puddle of foulest smelling crap I'd ever encountered before or since. I just thought, holy Jesus, what the hell is that? So I realized it was Willie's blood. Henry uttered a satisfied grunt, thrust a black and white photo into my hands. Here's the picture I was talking about. The helmet's cross. The picture was smudged and grainy, but it clearly depicted an enormous cross rising out of a sparse-looking cornfield. I squinted at it closely, and I saw that the cross had indeed been constructed from a patchwork of multiple tree trunks. Comparing it to the rows of cornstalks nearby, the cross must have been close to 4 feet in diameter. A crude and darkly sinister monolith of staggering proportions. It appeared to be a tiny figure standing in the foreground, a solitary speck of humanity wearing a long black overcoat and a hat with a round brim. I wondered if the figure might actually be Helmut Schneider himself. And even though I knew it couldn't have been him, I still felt goosebumps pop on my arm. The cross was the product of a union between an otherworldly influence and Helmut's own disturbed imagination. Even if he was no longer physically present at the time the picture was taken, Helmut Schneider was a part of the cross.
Oh my god.
The cross was a part of him. Henry blew out a deep sigh that ended in a nasty coughing fit. When he was done, he croaked, "Willie left a message for me on the mirror. Wrote it in shaving soap. Guess he was counting on me being the one to find his body, not someone from the utility company. The message said, 'Burn it down.' So, that's what I did. Put a lit candle beside the old sofa in his living room, and I made a torch out of a 2x4 and some old rags I found in his garage. I walked down to the orchard and lit up any branches I could reach. Stepping inside in that god-awful circle of death vegetation. The trees were dry as cardboard. They went up instantly. And by the time the blight had taken over the entire orchard, Henry said, as he started to draw an invisible map on the table, it was creeping into the woods on one side, damn near into the ditch. ditch beside the road on the other. It would have been long before he infested the whole country block and beyond. How far beyond? Who the hell knows? How like concentrated evils, such madness and death all bottled up just waiting to be released into the world. The entity that spoke to Helmut Schneider in his dreams demanded a sacrifice to stop the flood. That's exactly what he got. Sacrifice of blood? Sacrifice of hope. Henry lit a smoke and gazed off into the distance. It dawned on me that the tale had drawn to its conclusion. Henry was probably going to start babbling on about the activity of his bird feeder any moment. I had a couple of burning questions that needed to be answered first. I waved my hand to get his attention. So what happened to the brethren? They just disappeared down the road? They were never seen again? Henry shrugged and said, kind of. They moved to another county somewhere close by, from what I can gather. After that, one of Helmut's wives attacked him in his sleep, with a mitten through his eyeball. He chased her after with a knife, and she shoved him down a flight of stairs. Broke his neck on the way down. I raised my eyebrows and said, shit, there you go. Sure it couldn't have happened to a nicer guy. Yeah, he was an awful man. No doubt about that. That's not why she killed him. The girl claimed that Helmut was regularly convening evil spirit in his sleep. To be honest, I can't say she wasn't right about that. Some awful guiding transactions seems to me. He believed it was God. One last question. What happened after you set fire to the orchard? Wasn't there an investigation? Not really. Henry sighed. He looked tired. I told the cops I hadn't seen anything unusual that night. Probably decided Willie had done it himself when he put the razor to his throat. Never really came back to talk to me again, so I have no guess. I heard Ingrid got the insurance money, so at least some good came out of it. Henry put out his half-smoked cigarette, trying to glance at the grandfather clock in the corner. He pressed his lips together in an unhappy line and said, listen, I appreciate you coming out here on a discount, but I'm not feeling so hot today. I think I want to lay down for a while. And here, so grab something out of that box for you out. Keepsake, you know. I said, sure, of course. Then blindly reach into the box. I wanted to ask him what was going on, but I knew I wouldn't get a straight answer. I swallowed down a sudden lump in my throat and pulled a worn little pocket knife out of the shoebox. I showed it to him, and a fleeting smile skittered across Henry's lips. That belonged to your father. You should keep it. A hard man to live with, but you know, he had his reasons. He found it when he was serving overseas in World War II. A hell of a story behind that knife. I'll have to wait for another day. I need to lay down now. Henry showed me to the door, then walked down the gravel driveway with lead in my feet and dread in my heart. I don't want Henry to get sick. I certainly don't want him to die. It's probably selfish, but I don't care. I don't want him to leave. He has a gift. When he dies, his gift will die with him. But as Henry said earlier, I'm the writer in the family. It's my job to document the world around me. And I believe I'm trying my best to capture his words before he's gone. I was halfway back to the city before I felt the knife bouncing around in the breast pocket of my shirt. I cursed Henry out loud. He did it to me again, clever old son of a bitch. Started an interesting story, and left me hanging. Well, guess I'll have to drop in at the farm again soon and ask about his pocket knife. I don't mind a long drive, and I really don't. In fact, I look forward to it. It gives me time to think. And time spent thinking is never time wasted. So then I bid you all good night. If you take away any lesson at all from the unfortunate fate of Willie Van Klein, remember this. Sometimes it's better to just leave well enough alone. well enough doesn't seem so great at the time. No matter how bad things might look, they can always get a hell of a lot worse. If you know anything at all about life on a farm, you know that a farmer spends as much time on the upkeep of his property as the actual business of farming. Groundskeeping duty is a full-time job all by itself. There are hundreds of yards of fencing to mend, endless acres of grass to mow, and multiple leaks in multiple roofs that should have been repaired back in the spring. Possibly the spring of last year. There are barns that need a good sweeping, gardens that need good watering, and numerous walls that should probably get a new coat of paint before winter rolls in. No matter how hard you try to get it all done, there's always another chore or two lurking around the corner. Well, Uncle Henry has his good days and his not-so-good days, but even on his best days, he simply isn't physically capable of managing the farm anymore. His fields are being sharecropped by a neighboring farm this year. Corn, of course. Always either beans or corn around this neck of the woods. But the bulk of the menial chores around the property have fallen squarely on the aching shoulders of yours truly. A very stupid nephew who can't say no to literally save his own damn life. I've been dragging myself out of bed before dawn every Saturday morning to beat traffic. And then it's a full day of struggling with heavy shit beneath the merciless summer sun. I crash on Henry's old fold-out sofa after a few beers on Saturday night. Then I'm back on my way to the city on Sunday morning, usually with blisters on my palms and aching muscles in my back. Not exactly a young man myself anymore, and it shows. The extra cash has been kind of nice, but I'll take that money and hire someone local to be the groundskeeper next year. The sun gets too damn hot. Bugs are just about enough to drive me crazy. Henry was having one of his good days last weekend, so he volunteered to tag along and keep me company. My task for the day was to cut up and dispose of a fallen tree. A fair chunk of Henry's property is first-growth forest, and after a good storm, it's a safe bet that there will be at least one tree blocking an access road to one of the fields back at the farm. Other times, they'll get caught on another tree on the way down, creating a hazardous trap. Either way, it needs to be dealt with as soon as possible. Now, I'll readily confess that I'm not very fond of operating a chainsaw.
Oh my god.
Not since I had one kick back on me and come within a hair of ripping my face off. Despite my misgivings with operating a whirling chain of death, however, it was a job that had to get done. And Henry isn't in any condition to be working the saw these days. I was just glad that Henry was feeling well enough to spend the day outside. I climbed up on Mean Green and followed Henry's aging Sierra out to the west end of the farm. Henry sold off the majority of his equipment last year, but he kept Mean Green, a 40-year-old John Deere tractor, with an open station and a seat that's mostly duct tape. It's a temperamental beast that refuses to die, and riding the damn thing is almost like wrestling a gigantic mechanical bear. The tree in question was a big, grand old silver birch. They had taken out a couple of smaller trees on the way down, but they weren't really in the way of anything important. The birch, however, was lying squarely across the service road, blocking access to a large field that borders the west edge of the property. It was at least 80 feet long, and created quite a mess on the other side of the road when it hit the ground. Henry got into the truck and grinned up at me with both hands stuffed into the pockets of his coveralls. He said, "So, this is it. He's a big old bastard, ain't he? Lying on the ground for damn near a month now. Kind of scoot by on the other side with an ATV, but Jonathan needs to get over there and do some irrigating soon. Think you can get this thing squared away before you leave tomorrow?" I examined the broken, jagged crown of its upper branches and gave Henry a reluctant nod. "We'll see. It'll be tricky on the other side. Or if you want me to just nip it off on either side of the road and forget about the rest." Henry shot me a judgmental look and flapped a hand at the confused, tangled limbs on the far side of the road. "You're looking at a winter's worth of firewood there. People pay big money for a cord of wood these days. Don't waste it." Well, I went about the business of getting the saw ready, and Henry plopped himself down in a folding lawn chair. He lit a cigarette and started bitching about how I was doing everything wrong, which is par for the course when you're working for Henry. It's not malicious, exactly, and I really don't think that he means any harm. He genuinely believes that everyone else is something of an idiot. He's so in the error of their ways. What are you doing? Getting the bar and the chain oil all over the ground. How about you pour some of that in the fucking saw while you're at it? Jesus almighty, boy. Well, golly, am I ever glad you came out with me today? I smiled. How about I put this piece of shit tractor in gear and let it roll down the gully? How about that, you old bastard? Henry chuckled. You'd probably do that anyway. Just out of sheer incompetence.
Okay, I'm just
Make
building
sure
a
the
house.
chain's
Look at this.
good and tight.
Oh,
Don't leave a lot of slack.
looks off,
Son of a
but
dirty buck,
I don't know.
snapped. You want to do this?
I'm not good at building houses. All right,
Henry grinned.
let's start.
You're fucking it all up.
It's the
Haven't
first
even
time.
started yet.
All right. I never built this way. I built a square place like that one over there.
And stifled the urge
But
to
I want a small
chair
house
and
like that one,
massive
so yeah.
tea kettle onto the ground.
This is awesome.
Like most farmers, Henry does things in a very particular way.
It's close to spawn, I don't know.
And as far as he's concerned, there could not possibly be any other way. I bit my tongue and started up the saw.
Not a beetroot.
Thankfully, it caught on the second pull. Henry would have gleefully written me a new one with that dry and understated country man's wit. He may not be the best of health these days, but Henry's tongue was as sharp as ever. I had no desire to operate the saw for 2 days in a row, so I worked at a feverish pace and had the majority of the upper branches chopped down by 2 o'clock. By this time, I had a dripping mess of sweat and simmering resentment. Henry's a great guy to sit down and drink some beers with. He's definitely not my favorite supervisor. Henry squinted up at my red, scowling face and said, "You can leave all them logs right where they are. They're not in the way over here. Pull the trunk off the road, we can go drink some goddamn beer. That sound good?" I mopped the sweat off my face with a towel. Hell yes. Sounds just dandy to me. I fetched a couple straps off the toolbox in the back of the Sierra and fired up the tractor. The trunk was incredibly heavy. It dug a deep groove in the road as the John Deere rumbled against its massive weight. I thought, fuck the stupid road, I'll fix it with a scraper blade in the morning. And I kept right on pulling. Henry stabbed a finger at the damage and shouted, "See, I told you should have cut it up first, you damn idiot." I ignored his outrage and focused on finishing the task at hand.
I think mobs can spawn with the vegetable water. I don't know.
My shirt was covered in blotchy salt stains, and my forearms felt like they were made out of poorly set jello. I didn't give a goddamn about the road at that point. I just wanted the ordeal to be over with. I was more than ready to go back to the house for a cold one. Henry cupped his hands around his mouth and yelled, "Stay on the tractor. I'll untie the strap." He pounded the knot in the holly. "You call this a bowline knot? What the hell you do? Hercules himself couldn't untie this fucking thing. Shut the tractor off." I cut the engine and started to apologize, but Henry waved me off. He started searching his pockets. He groaned. "Oh, hell, I was sitting on the table. You have that knife on you, kid? One you took home with you a little while back? Did you lose it already?" "No, Henry," I grunted. "I didn't lose it already. I'm a 5-year-old, for Christ's sake. I'm a grown man." I fished out the pocket knife and dropped it into his hands. Henry laboriously sawed through the strap and grumbled, "They could be a lot sharper, you know. Dad's always kept it real sharp. Yeah, I'm done with it. I'll sharpen up that blade tonight. Don't let me forget." Henry stood up with a grimace and waved a hand in the direction of the barnyard. "That's it for today, kiddo. Listen, I need to check on something before I leave. Just head on back to park the tractor somewhere near the barn. Help yourself to a beer while you wait." I said, "Sure thing, boss. See you when you get back." I left him to attend to his secretive errand in the bush. I walked mean green up into the third gear and gunned it back to the barn, bouncing around in the seat like a cowboy at a rodeo. I jounced and bounced across the uneven terrain. I parked the tractor and stood in front of the open door of the mini fridge in the garage, luxuriating in a wave of frigid air as I poured a glorious, shockingly cold can of beer down the arid canyon in my throat. It was ecstasy.
I'm gonna name my
Tossed the empty
goddamn
can
son of a
and cycled
bitch.
and immediately popped open another one. I was halfway through my second beer by the time Henry pulled
Man, go back to my laggy area. I know this is so laggy. Look at this. God damn, boy. So laggy as shit here, boy. Yeah, I should farm somewhere else. I don't know why. But it's really hard to farm someone else. Like, I don't know. It's like,
take care of that on Monday.
Like, I already built this contraption in my other
Thank you
base.
very
Like, I don't
much,
know.
my boy.
It's like,
Fresh market and it was
yeah, I don't want to live this. I don't want to live in this place anymore because it's so fucking lagging. This is fucking lagging, bro.
I started to protest, and Henry shook his head. Buddy, how I'll miss it. Expensive living in the city. Wouldn't take it. I said, I don't know, Henry. You sure? Call it an asshole tax. I could be a right son of a bitch to work for. Bet on it. Took a look at the watch and said, we should get supper started early. Maybe some grub right about now. How about you? Foot long on the mark. Mile high with fried onions. There wasn't a plate. We sat in the little swing chair inside the house and sat on the couch. Summer was in full swing, growling with a vibrant wind, carrying green flowers, blues and reds, countless colors moving in the breeze. I could tell Henry had something on his mind, and I was pretty sure that I knew what it was. He was thinking about my pocket knife, 3-inch folding blade, once
Oh
worn.
man, you want to build this guy some mud first? You don't want to be named.
Story behind it.
Right.
His thoughts in his unhurried, meticulous manner, as he needed hot dogs and sipped a case of beer.
Man,
Quiet. I let Henry mull it over in peace.
man. There you go, and your name is
My
Charles.
father is a difficult subject to anyone. I spent most of my adulthood trying to extract myself from his memory. He was a hard man, harsh,
There you go.
unforgiving, but also a very troublesome man. Soldiers are expected to return from the
Alright,
war
yeah.
and simply forget about the awful things they had said and done while fighting in a foreign land. The results can be disastrous. Henry put down his hot dog and said, "Uh-oh, look over there. Back it up." He pointed at some ominous-looking clouds that were gathering to the west. They talked about maybe getting some rain on the news this morning. I think it's coming. 15 minutes later, we were sitting at the kitchen table with the rain pounding a droning tempo on the roof above our heads. We cracked a fresh beer and shot the shit for a while, our conversation drifting back and forth from small matters to global concerns and all things in between. I fetched us another round, and when I got back to the table, Henry sighed. I suppose it's time. Can we have a look at that knife of yours, kid? I passed it over, and Henry fetched a magnifying glass out of the junk drawer on the kitchen counter. He squinted at the faux pearl handle, fluorescent light above the sink, and said, "Come here, look at this. Right here, just above the ribbon." He dropped the knife in my hand and gave me a magnifying glass. I took a peek at it myself and said, "It's like a J, a V, and a Z.
Anything else, bro?
Someone's initials?" Henry popped open his beer with a tab opener I bought for him a while back and nodded. He pulled a whetstone kit out of the junk drawer and started sharpening the tarnished blade with painstaking care, meticulously working the cutting edge against the stone and careful sequence. I sipped my beer and started the kit. War, Henry murmured. Always a goddamn war when you're dead. Never left it behind. Exempted from service and I could culturally confirm it. Wally wasn't so lucky. The draft board snatched him right up. Off he went overseas. Came back an entirely different person. I know you might not believe this, but before he left, your dad was a hell of a nice fella. Joke around, laugh, not a bad word to say about anyone. He came back meaner than rats think. He was drunk. Now, it's not exactly news to you, but it was worse when you were young. Drink hard liquor from noon to night, every day of the week, except Sunday. On Sunday, he'd start drinking right after breakfast. Bob came back like that. The only way he could sleep at night. Get up to disappear. Summer between feeling no pain. I don't think I'll live to the century. Henry interjected. Like I said, Wally was a completely different Grandma took me aside once and said they killed him. This isn't my son. I leaned back in my chair and grunted. I can only imagine what it was like when he first came back. Henry chuckled and shrugged. I gestured and spoke of an old, dual sadness. Oh, he's quite a handful when he got mad. That's a fact. Actually, this all started with that. I knew he wasn't someone to fuck with. God damn. He was gonna kill someone that night. Surprised he didn't. Taking him out to a bar for a few drinks must have been somewhere. 49. I remember I was still working for the electric company at the time. Living on my own in an apartment in town. I was sitting around after my supper one night and thought, hell, I should drag Wally out for a few cold. He'd never do that far. I ain't good for anybody to be isolated like that. Anyway, we were sitting there at the table with a couple of local farmers, having a beer, shooting shit about the coming harvest. Your father was in the mood that night. More than usual. He was sitting there with his head down, fiddling around on that damn knife. Playing around with the knife and hammering back the whiskey. Just didn't want to be there. I should have seen him. One of the farmers who was sitting there, he was a pretty shithouse himself. Probably 9 beers deep. Started getting annoyed while he was sitting there ignoring everyone. I was about to tip back the last of that drink and get us out of there when the farmer suddenly smacked his hand on the table in front of your dad and says, "We're talking here, boy. Pay attention. What's the matter with you?" Your dad. He didn't even look up. He just kind of smiled to himself and said, "You're not saying anything worth listening to, old timer. Leave me alone." That didn't go over too well with the farmer. And they snorted. He leaned across the table. He says, "You need to learn some manners, boy. Hey, look at me when I'm talking to you." He grabbed Wally's knife. Holy Jesus, all hell broke loose. The dad popped out of his chair like he was sitting on a spring and bellowed, "You don't touch that motherfucker." No word of a lie. He must have hit that big bastard 10 times on his way. This guy's already done. Your dad was getting warmed up. Started kicking and stomping on him, just kicking the absolute piss and shit out of this guy. He tried to crawl away. The other farmers jumped up, grabbed him from behind. Wally gave him a judo flip clear over the pool table. He hit the wall on the other side so goddamn hard I heard the beer glasses rattle around the bar. Henry paused and let it whistle. He shook his head and let a flat, humorless little wheeze of laughter. Now, Walter's pretty drunk too. When the second farmer hit the wall, he finally noticed what was happening. He came in swinging haymakers. Wally just kind of backs him out of the air, kicks the guy square in the kneecap. Heard the snap from clear across the bar. Bouncer fell square on his ass, started squealing like a stuck hog. Your dad screams down at him, "You want some more, big man?" He hauls off and boots him right in the face. So he'd always tell me, if you get a chance, kick him in the face. Can't tell themselves they could have won the fight if you kicked their face in. Henry blinked at this and muttered, "Yeah, that's one way to look at it, I guess. Not sure there's much honor in kicking a man when he's down. These poor bastards, they were definitely down for the count. First guy was trying to worm his way under the table. Second guy was running out the door. Everyone else was scrambling to get the hell out of the way. Bartender starts yelling that he was going to call the cops. Dad gave the guy under the table one last kick in the ribs. Walked out of there with not so much as a backwards glance. Cold as knife. I ran after him, yelling, "Jesus Christ, Wally. You want to go to jail? The hell's wrong with you?" Your dad glared at me in front of his bushy eyebrows. "Stupid sons of bitches are lucky I didn't kill him." Take me back to the farm. We didn't talk on the way back. Kind of scared. I tried to say the wrong thing. It seemed like he was in the mood for small talk. I pulled in the driveway while he didn't get out of my truck. He rolled down the window. He fired up a cigarette. He sat there for a while, just still listening to the night. clodhopper grabbed for my knife and set me off. Nope. Called to do that. I said, no, he didn't. Neither did you, Molly. Damn near killed him, and that bouncer, hell, he'll be eating soup and walking with a cane for a good long while. Something might be coming to talk to you, Wally. Pray none of those men died tonight. Wally sort of huffed and started up. You knew I was right. He says, I want you to tell me something, okay? Now, I want to know the truth, Wally, so be straight with me. Your dad thought about it for a moment. He goes, don't lie to me. My brother. And I asked him, the hell is it with this little pocket knife of yours anyway? Why are you so obsessed with the damn thing? Henry stopped and fumbled with a cigarette out of the breast pocket. Absent-mindedly offered it. I shook my head in irritation. I'm done with cigarettes, man, remember? Had my last smoke 3 weeks ago. You kept trying to give me one. Oh, yeah, that's right. Got so used to you bumming all my goddamn smokes. Automatic now. Henry lit up and coughed.
Alright then, I get an area of jack shit here. Yes.
Do I look glamorous? Tell the way I was looking at him and he rolled his eyes. So look at me like that, there's nothing worse than an ex-smoker or an ex-drinker. Bunch of zealots, a whole lot of you. I don't know, I think lung cancer might be worse. They shot back. Henry offered me a sour smile. Such a pile. Hell of a story over here. Anyway, Wally lays his knife on the dashboard. He says, I never told you nothing about what happened overseas. Believe me, there's a reason for that. 4 years, Henry. 4 years is a long time. He says, okay, where'd they send you to fight? He said, not listening to me, your dad was put in hell. I sat there and I waited until I was ready to start talking. After a while, it cleared his throat. You gotta understand, there weren't any rules over there. Whenever we pushed the Germans out, we left a big shitty mess behind us. I saw so many horrible things that were there to people. People were starving, Henry. We'd settle down somewhere for the night, build a fire, eat up some chow. No matter where we were, as soon as the smell hit the air, it wouldn't be long before we were surrounded by a circle of people that would look like skeletons. Stand there and watch you your story.
Ain't good, bro?
Candy.
You're up to the trash, bro. What the fuck is this? I already have these things. I don't your shit.
They couldn't help it.
Okay.
Henry twitched his lips
Oh.
with a cynical smile.
I don't have a cat. Oh, I'm gonna bring my cat here. I don't know.
You show the big explosion, the heroics. You don't show the people who get caught in the crossfire. You don't show them slowly starving to death. It's not very often, no. I don't think a movie that shows that will do very well on the big screen. Henry grunted. Yeah, your father could set those movie producers straight. Bet he could. The thing he told me that night, sweet Jesus. Poured out after story after story. I couldn't hardly believe any of it. The one that stuck with me the most was the kid who got hit in the stomach during a firefight. 18 years old. Didn't even shave yet, this kid. There's his innards spread all over the ground. The kid kept screaming, I don't want to die. Wally yelled back, you ain't getting out of this, you stupid bastard. You don't get to die. He gathered up all the kids' guts falling around on his hands and knees, taking the boys' innards out of the mud and tried to stuff them back in the kid's body. He was already dead. I nodded mutely, staring at the table and remembered the taste of cheap lump in the darkness. Sick and sweet, as it burned its way down my throat. Wally took his boots and his rations after he was gone. How it was over there, you didn't. Well, you stick barely consider them to be an alcoholic beverage. Rum was his drink. Bottle after bottle of dark, sickly sweet rum. Henry nipped away at his beer and waited for me to say whatever it is that I needed to say. I remained silent. In my mind's eye, my dad slammed his fist down on the kitchen table and slurred. He caught one in the stomach. Right here. I was 10 years old. Tired. Confused. Very afraid. I had been pulled out of bed with no explanation. Now I was sitting in the dark with a coffee mug full of some awful, murky-looking liquor on the table in front of me. The clock on the wall read 10 minutes past 2 in the morning. Dad was glaring at me from across the table, slowly working himself into a fury as he gave voice to the being. Henry studied the expression on my face, and he briefly looked like he was about to ask a question that would lead to some very uncomfortable answers. But then he thought the better of it. The moment passed, and he continued on with the story. After a while, your dad sort of peters out with his awful memories. He just sat there for a while in the dark. It's getting late. I wanted to call it a night, but I couldn't go home just yet. He hadn't answered my question. I told him I'll cover for you if I have to. Well, you're my brother, but you have to tell me the story behind that night. I see you don't want to talk about it, but I think maybe you should. Your dad lets out this big, long sigh, and he says, "Do me a favor, Henry, go in the house. Get us both a drink. Take whatever you got, and we'll leave." I abruptly found myself wishing for a smoke. A cigarette goes so goddamn good with the beer. I popped some nicotine gum instead and made a sour face at the package. You're right, Henry. It does taste like mint-flavored dog shit. Henry smirked and said, "Stick to your guns, young fella. You're smoke-free. Enjoy it." Anyhow, your dad was in France at the time. Whatever was left of the Germans after D-Day invasion. Most of the time, they threw down their rusty rifles. They were starving, most bad as peasants. Some of them didn't even have any ammunition. Don't get me wrong. It's still dangerous work. The Nazis retreated and left all kinds of booby traps behind. A GI would lean down to pick up a German helmet off the ground and get blown to smithereens. He'd get fired on by snipers and set on landmines every now and then. Someone who started screaming would just not be able to stop. Everywhere they looked, it's nothing but death and destruction. Where they went, there were just bodies lying in the mud, buzzards wheeling around in the sky. The wind slapped the window with a sudden blast of rain, making me jump a bit in my chair. So it's getting pretty wild out there. I'm glad I'm not driving home tonight. I might end up losing power. Henry called. I should hunt up some candles soon. Anyway. We captured the Germans after a battle near a village called St. Michael. One of them turned out to be an officer. Wait, not just an officer. Major. They marched the officer and his boys into the village at gunpoint. The villagers all gathered around and started screaming for his blood. Dad said they had to point their rifles at the mob to get them to back off. They were in a frenzy. Started throwing rocks and yelling death to the monsters, cut off their heads. This guy couldn't understand English really well. The only thing he could say was, "I'll speak to another officer, or I'll not speak at all." Now, Wally was only a sergeant, but he was the highest ranking man there, so the job got pushed onto his shoulders. He said, "Send in the old man. Get this guy to talk in a hurry." That's what they called your dad, the old man. He was only 22 years old. Politicians don't send grown men and women to talk to send our children. So your dad goes into the tent where they've been holding the officer and finds this arrogant prick sitting there with his pipe and one hand, flask full of snout in the other. His boots propped up on the table like he owns the place. Oh, he grits his teeth, says something like, "Hello, Major. I hope you plan to cooperate with me." So the shitty bastard just laughs at me and says, "Go find a real officer. I don't have to talk to you." Well, the stage in the game, your dad didn't much care about any more proper procedures and shit like that. But Wally jumps over the table, tackles the son of a bitch, he jammed his pistol in his crouched mouth and says, "Talk to me, you horse's ass, or I'll bury you." The words "I'll bury you" flicked the switch in my head. Once again, the present day abruptly fell away like shattered glass. Just like that, I was 7 years old and was playing with a rusty toy dump truck at the edge of the field. A field bordered the property my father was renting from a local farmer. It consisted of a grubby little one-story house, a heavily rutted gravel driveway, and a quarter-acre of scraggly weeds and bleached-out dirt. I watched as a long, dark sedan drove up to the house, and a bad feeling started to roil in the pit of my stomach. I could sense that the sedan was a harbinger of impending chaos. A man in a somber-looking suit got out of the car and knocked on the front door.
Shit.
My dad answered with a sullen
The
glare.
fuck, man?
"Who the hell are you? What do you want?" The man
That's
thrust a
right.
manila envelope into his hand, and Dad immediately started bellowing at the top of his lungs. He followed our unwelcome visitor as he beat a hasty retreat to his car, screaming that he was a leech, a parasite, a goddamn greedy, good-for-nothing crook. Dad crouched down to look at the man, the car in reverse. He shrieked, "I'll bury you. You hear me, asshole? I'll bury the whole fucking lot of you." Henry gave him a watchful look. He said, "What? What is it?" Dad was sharecropping for a farmer, I said. And I cracked a sad grin. This is back in the mid-'80s. Remember that? Reached the contract somehow, got us kicked off the land. Rented a little shack somewhere, and a guy came out to serve him papers for a lawsuit. Dad went fucking ballistic. He took to kill the dude and bury him. "Yeah, I remember the lawsuit," Henry reads. "Didn't kill the guy, did he?" "No, right. Shy about making his feelings known." "No, he certainly wasn't," I agreed. It was time for another beer. They pushed back my chair to stand up and was almost blinded by a searing bolt of lightning through the kitchen window. At the same instant, an explosive boom rattled the dishes in the cupboard. The lightning flickered out, plunging us into a thick and oppressive gloom. "Oh, shit," Henry groaned. "Be a while before the lights come back on. Some candles in the junk drawer. Put the beer in my cooler." I said, "Hey, I can drink them warm if I have to, Henry. Don't worry about it." "The hell with that," Henry snapped, and he headed over to fetch the cooler from the big closet by the front door. "I can't stand them more. Grab that big pack of ice out the freezer." I settled back down at the table and watched the storm rage outside the windows. The candles flickered and wavered, stealthy drafts that brought their way through the walls of the old farmhouse, making the shadows skitter and dance across the walls. "Well," Henry continued, "choking on the barrel of a pistol straightened up that old boy's attitude real quick. Says his name was Otto Heinemann. Set to the village to take care of the outpost a few months before the D-Day invasion.
My God.
Most of the unit run off into the woods when the Allies came storming through, himself included. He'd only just come back that very day to rob the village for supplies. My dad didn't believe the story for a second. Why the hell would they send high-ranking officers to take command of a tiny outpost in the middle of nowhere? He nodded along with everything that Major Heinemann was saying, playing it cool. Then he asked, "Why do these people hate you so much? What were you doing?" That slimy little shit weasel got real nervous. "Well, of course these people hate us. We defeated them." Well, he wagged his finger in his face and told me, "That's not much of an answer, Major. Why don't you try again?" The officer saw the look in Wally's eyes and sniveled. "There's been some difficulties between the villagers and a small group of my men. I investigated the situation and sent the troublemakers away." Henry reached into his trusty old cooler and pulled out a fresh beer. He managed to pop it open without using a tab opener, and he flashed a cheerful grin. Look at that, he crowed. Opening cans and everything. What do you think of that, kid? Maybe I'm turning the corner on this old age bullshit. I smiled and said, well, maybe. Have to see how you feel tomorrow. It's a long day. Anyway, that German soldier was obviously full of shit. Right up to his eyeballs, Henry agreed. He downed him for a while, I'm squaring his chair, and then he says, there's some difficulties. They don't say. What kind of difficulties are we talking about here, fella? Kind of rape and murder? Those kinds of difficulties? He also tried to say that he never done anything wrong while he gave the bastard a good hard whack in the noggin. Blood started running down his face, covered in hand. Wally said that he had walked outside right then and there, able to stop himself from killing himself. He found his men talking with a few of the villagers. A kid barely in his teens, a boy named John Paul Jard. I tapped my knife and said, the initials. Doesn't that belong to the kid? I'm getting there. Henry shouted. Hold your horses now.
They have potatoes, so.
John Paul speaks some English. One of the Wally's boys can speak some French.
Time to Laggy Island. Sort of fuck, man. I'm gonna fuck
Able to
this.
hammer out one hell of a tale to everyone. And it turns out Major Otto Hyman was actually Corporal Otto Hyman. He led a revolt against the sergeant who was in charge of the outpost, and they shot him out in the field. Imagine something like that. Swift round execution back in the nation. Communications, orders, breaking down. Pretty much on their own. On the darkness, and Henry gave me a blank stare. What? What are you talking about? It's an old book. I can imagine the kind of horrible shit that was going on after the revolt. Well, Otto had himself obsession with his cult. A lot of Nazi commanders were experimenting with black magic and cult stuff. Dad was the first invasion. I don't know if it's true, but I read that they tried to build themselves a goddamn UFO. Convinced he used human sacrifices to communicate with the dead. Torture and murder people in a barn on the outskirts of the village. Circle of followers. He'd try to speak with the departed. Things that had never been alive. The night before the invasion, Otto made contact. This form appeared above a circle of blood, told him to run for the woods. They all left that same night. When the invasion came marching through the house, Allied bullet passed over their heads, cowards. I realized I'd been sitting at the edge of my chair, in a tense, awkward position, and I forced myself to scoot back and relax. I said, well, Dad ended up getting a few of them anyway. Better late than never. I suppose, Henry muttered. Your dad asked the kid how he knew any of that. Jean Paul said, I was there when it happened. And he unbuttoned his shirt and showed healing cuts on his back.
I don't know anything. It's like, I don't know.
Hung them from a support beam by his ankles and led him into a circle that Otto drew in the dirt. Before each cut, Otto looked up at the ceiling of the barn and said, the gift of life, hot, fresh. I winced in sympathy and shook my head. Jesus Christ. Left him hanging there and ran? Yeah. It was, Grandma came cutting down as soon as they left. Otto came up from camp deep in the woods. They only ventured into the village to find food and to snatch a warm body for their ritual. Villagers wanted revenge. Blood had been spilled, they demanded blood in return. I wrinkled my nose and said, I'm sure I would have handed over those assholes in a heartbeat. Fuck them. Yeah, your dad wanted to hand the kid a pistol. business. He needed Otto alive for a little while longer. They marched him into the woods and made him lead them to their camp. Otto's hideout turned out to be just a hunch. Result on tent. Stands in a circle around a cold fire.
Alright, just farming.
Wally looked over at Otto, said, "Looks like your boys ran off without you, Adolf." Otto just smiled at him and went, "Perhaps they did. We'll see." Just then someone hollered, "Come over here, take a look at this." Wally goes to see what happened. Marty holding his ankles from a tree branch. Hung someone upside down, skinned him alive. His eyelids were gone. His body was so fresh, it was still glistening. Wally said he looked at it for a minute, trying to wrap his head around the horrible cruelty of such an awful fucking thing. Pulled out his trench knife and yelled, "Bring him over here." They dragged Otto over and made him get on his knees. Wally showed him the knife and said, "Like you. But I'll tell you what, Major Heineman, you gotta give this man a proper burial first. Someone go find him a shovel. Got himself a couple holes to dig." Henry paused to pour some beer down his throat.
When I play Minecraft, I have freaking my arms are fucked. I don't know why. Oh my god.
While the hand was knife to his eye, it cut down the body. I watched him hand over the knife, and suddenly hit the look on his face. Like a light bulb went off his head, and he started smiling again. He took the crowd over and started clearing between trees and said, "Get digging, asshole." Otto starts digging his own grave, smiling away. That's happening in private, drags over the chopping block with a step knife. Starts sewing at the rope. Two things happen. Otto threw himself flat on the ground. An explosion knocked just about everyone right on their ass. While he could hear the screams ringing in his ears. His first coherent thought was, "Don't let that son of a bitch get away." Pulled himself to his feet. Now you can see bits and pieces of body parts all over the place. Some belong to the dead man in the tree. Some belong to the private. Most of the squad either lying on the ground or staggering around with blood on their fatigue. Wally and Otto were the only ones far enough away from the detonation to escape without a scratch. No one else got hurt. Wally didn't have no choice but to leave them there suffering and chase Otto through the woods. Ended up at a steep cliff overlooking the river. He saw that Otto wouldn't let him stop, so he took a shot with his rifle. He missed. Otto ran right up and jumped off the edge of the cliff. Wally scanned the river below with his binoculars for a body. It was like, man, jumped off the cliff right into another one. Gone. They held up a hand and said, "Just a second, Henry. Just let me get in that cooler. I'm dry." I popped the tab and drank a third of the can in 2 swallows. My biceps and forearms were throbbing from working the saw that day. The beer was definitely helping me felt pain. Going down smooth as it always did. Definitely my father's son. I cleared my throat and asked, "I'm guessing your grandpa was a boozer, wasn't he?" Henry looked at me in surprise. He said, "Talking about your biological grandpa, I suppose. You can't bootleg it. You left us to sink and swim in the middle of nowhere. That tells you anything?" I sighed. "Yeah, not surprised. Dad was an alcoholic too." "You definitely have a bit of a dependence growing up. I mean, no, don't look at me like that. You drink too much, and so do I. Not as much as my dad, but this beer gut didn't come from nowhere. Alcoholism runs in his family. You know, it takes years off your life, right? I'm cutting down. I should honestly do the same." Henry rubbed his head in irritation and growled, "The fuck is this? I'm telling a goddamn story over here, kiddo. Do you mind? I'm just saying that maybe we should..." "Oh, can it?" Henry snapped. "The hell are you on about anyway? People drink. They do. They smoke, they drink, they eat cheeseburgers till the day they fall down and die. The hell over it already, would you? Jesus Christ. I feel like I'm one sneeze away from getting shoved into an iron lung over here. Relax, all this worrying about my health. You give me a goddamn rash." I was stunned into silence. Henry put down his beer and mimicked my open-mouthed expression of shock so accurately that I started to laugh. Oh, come on, kid. What do you want from me? Lay off with the weird looks and the questions all the time. I'll die when I die, and I promise it won't be a moment sooner. Then I'll drink my beer and smoke a cigarette. Live my life as I damn well please. I looked down at the table and said, I won't stop being concerned about you. I'll try to put a lid on it, I guess. Yeah. Henry rumbled. I swear to God, I'll throw you out in the rain if you don't stop circling around like a goddamn buzzard. Jesus Christ, boy. Anyway, your dad was, damn it, what was I? Your dad chased the guy right off the cliff. I already know why no one went up to camp. They said it back in the village. They're probably waiting for the Americans to come looking for their camp. They snuck in, they butchered every single one. He was trying to reach some other region. He wasn't getting a response from the men he left behind to guard the rest of the prisoners. He left dead and dying men in the woods, double-timed it back to the village. About sunset. By the time we got to the village, he stumbled over the first body in the dark. It was one of his men. While he could see there had been a battle, he saw him lost. The rest was lying in the street. Otto's boys stripped them, lined them all up, executed them. Around the village, kerosene lantern, trying to identify the bodies that ran the circle. The last body he found was Jean Paul. He was talking to her, lying a little further down the street. Shot him down and tried to run away. Wally rolled the kid over and saw there was something clenched in his hand. Pried open his cold finger, and there it was. The very same pocket sitting here on my kitchen table. Opened the blade, he saw it was sharp. He off his trench knife. Bomb blade. A small blade that was nothing at all. Sharp. Tucked it away, started thinking about what he was going to do next. Destroyed the radio, and left. They ransacked all the supplies while they were at it. No doubt in mind, he'll have to die, but no way that he could take all of them out himself. He walked out to the barn. Otto and his cult had practicing their rituals, circling the dirt and dropped John Paul's blood-soaked handkerchief in the middle. Picked up the back of his hand with John Paul's knife, dripped some of his own blood onto the edge of that circle. When he was done, he stepped back. And I don't know what I'm supposed to do next. If you can hear me, come on out, you son of a bitch. The dad stood there by the circle he waited. It was 10 minutes past time. Said to himself a bunch of superstitious bullshit. Leaned down and
Oh,
the
fuck.
lantern head out. As his hand touched the handle, the lantern suddenly went out. Then 1 second, cold and dead the next. Raleigh held his breath, listened in the dark, no sound he heard was the breeze whistling through the gaps of the barn, thudding of his own pounding heart. Wally cleared his throat and called out, "Is anyone there? Show yourself!" Shuffling footsteps from someone behind him, he spun around with his pistol in his hand. He could barely make out the shadowy figure standing in the doorway of the barn. He yelled, "Put your hands in the air and identify yourself!" In a moment, the man came out from behind the clouds. The figure standing in the doorway. The hair breaking my elbows. I gulped down the rest of my beer and I muttered, "Oh, I don't like that image at all. Shoot myself. It's fine." Very agreed. That boy gave a bloody grin of moonlight and crows. Who calls me in through the shadows? Shaking so bad he was dropping. He said, "I did. I gave you an offering, and now I want to ask for something in return." Forced himself to stand his ground. Crowded up the bloody handkerchief and squeezed it tight between his palms. When it opened them, these shapes covered in fire and clay, bit like grenades. Gus walked his trembling hand until what was growing. Terrible flame devoured anything it touched. And look at care, be wary again. Be damned.
Alright, it'll be the last, the carrots. The carrots is so fucked to farm, bro. I hate this. The carrots, man. I need my fortune pickaxe, though.
Wally crawled on his belly, close enough to run in and bash the guy in the back of the head with his rifle. He had a few more cracks when he went down to his shirt. Snuck up and out of the view. He could see him all sleeping there, by the fire, blowing all over the furniture and the floor. Wally pulled out the grenade, braced himself for whatever might come next, and tossed it through the open door. It shattered into pieces on the floor. No help. A wave of blue fire rolled across the room, lit up everything it touched. They barely had time to scream, for the entire house was engulfed by those intense blue flames. Wally left them there to burn and started searching for the rest of the property. Figured Otto either burned alive with the rest of the men. His body was floating around somewhere in that river. It wouldn't be so simple. He was weak. It's hard to kill. Henry got a fresh beer out of the cooler and popped the tab. Two. Then he raised his can in the air. A toast to an old man that's gonna die someday.
It'll be my dogs. My dogs in me. Alright, whatever. It'll be more dogs.
I'll outlive you all. Just be me sitting there with a six-pack in the middle of a giant radioactive desert. You paint a compelling picture, Henry. Pass one of those my way, if you'd be so kind. Henry pushed the beer can across the table. The sound the can made against the varnished wood jarred loose another unpleasant memory. This time, I was sitting at a table in a smoky little bar with Delilah, the girl I was dating at the time. I just turned 21, and I was in a dark mood that night. I'd been laid off my job at a factory the very same day. I already knew I was going to wind up getting evicted from my apartment. It'd be the third time in as many years. As per usual, I had nowhere to go. End up losing most of the worldly possessions I'd worked so hard to acquire. Since the last time I was evicted for non-payment. Grabbing old furniture, dishes, television. Anything I couldn't pack into a contractor-sized garbage bag and sling over my shoulder. Then I'll be gone. Delilah was in the middle of a long, rambling speech about why she couldn't let me stay with her, and I was barely listening. Didn't matter. I already knew the relationship was over. I knew it as soon as I told her I'd been laid off from my job. That didn't matter
Damn! I fucked the game. I fucked the game, so Jesus Christ. Oh my god. I have a lot of carrots though. I have a carrot fever. I can freaking sell carrots, bro. Like unsanitary.
Small items from unlocked cars. Selling dope. Doing whatever I could do to eat 2 meals a day from the dollar menu at McDonald's. It was my 21st birthday, and Jesus H. Christ. I was already so fucking tired of it. All of it. As far as I was concerned, my fair weather fling could gather up her bullshit excuses and go jump off the Boston Bridge. She could cram the entire rotten planet up her ass and shit a cosmic diamond for all I cared. It simply didn't matter. The waitress spun the fresh beer on the table and slid it over. I reached for it and misread. Slid clear off the table and sailed off the edge, hitting the floor and spattering over the work boots of a big red-faced man in denim overalls and a grubby-looking Hooters t-shirt. He stopped walking, looked down at his feet and slurred, "What the fuck are you doing, asshole? The fuck is that? You got it all over my boots." I blinked up at his bearded, furious face and said, "It's not my fault, man. I tried to grab it and missed. Sorry." My new acquaintance gave me a yellow-toothed smile and repeated, "You're sorry? Sorry for what, being a pussy? If y'all can't hold on to your beer, don't come out to the bar, you little pussy-ass bitch. Trying to start some shit?" The world around me went murky and distant. I grinned back at him and turned my head to grin over at the waitress and Delilah before snaking my arm out and seizing him by the crotch. He bellowed in pain and surprise and tried to pry my hand off his groin. I yanked him in close by his nutsack and jumped up to launch a headbutt to his mouth. Delilah screamed, "No, what are you doing?" Her voice was distant and unimportant. I tackled my new friend to the floor, then scrambled to rain down a flurry of punches before the big, lumbering bastard could throw me off and gain the upper hand. I hammered on his face until a thick arm suddenly encircled my neck, instantly squeezing off my air. I was dragged to the side exit by the bouncer, who promptly shoved me to
Oh
the door
man,
and
make it
hurled
bigger.
me to the
Jeez!
ground. Bouncer snarled,
Make it
"Fuck
bigger.
out of here, moron. We're gonna call the cops." I threw back my head and laughed at his scowling face from the prone position on the sidewalk. Delilah came bursting past him and started yelling at me. I rolled onto my hands and knees and hauled myself to my feet in the pole of the streetlight, laughing my ass off the entire time. I buried my face against my arm, still leaning against the pole, and chuckled, "Shut up, would you? We're done. There, feel better now? I did it for you. You're a free bird, babe." She was shocked into silence. I turned around and saw tears swimming in her eyes. All at once it dawned on me that I was turning into a drunken fucking asshole. It made me start laughing again. I laughed right in her face. Then I laughed at her back as she walked away from me. I was still laughing when the cops picked me up a little ways down the street, even as they were snapping on the handcuffs and reading me my rights. Stop laughing. The cops looked at me in disgust and said, "What's so funny, bud? Going to jail tonight." I shook my head and giggled suddenly. None of it matters. Put me in a car, take me away, Flatfoot. Do your fucking job. The cop skinned his lips, waxed in his teeth, pulled out his heavy flashlight. Next thing I can remember is waking up to my cellmate shaking me and whispering, "You dead or something, man? Come on. Don't be no dead body in here." Henry was staring at me expectantly. "What? What are you staring at? I'm in the damn story already. Dad burned down the farmhouse with a magic grenade. Then what?" Henry snorted and leaned back in his chair. He said, "You don't believe a word of this, do you?" I shook my head. "You got some mighty tall tales, Henry. I enjoy him very much. And I'm doing my very best to get it all down because I intend to put together a goddamn cracker of a short story collection someday. How's that for an answer?" Henry inhaled deeply and sighed. "You're mad at me, ain't you? You're mad I'm not taking the whole getting old and dying thing more seriously." I thought my words over carefully before I allowed them to exit my mouth. I said, he's my real dad ever was. That's the truth. I was glad you felt good enough to get out there. Days like this are coming fewer and farther between all the time. I worry about your health. Why don't you go to the doctor, get a full physical done, blood work, whole 9 yards. Can you do that for me, Henry? Please? Henry gave me a kind of smile and said, "There ain't no easy way to say this, so I'll just say it. I got cancer. Keep going for a while. No. Cancer? Where's the tumor? Oh, there's more than one. Pressing on some nerves. That's why I've been dropping my hands lately. They call it peripheral neuropathy. It's a real bitch. Good health insurance, so don't worry about any of that. They're gonna operate soon. I'll be doing the chemo, so don't worry, I'll be alright. I sat there for a minute and watched the rain roll down the windows. Finally, I cleared the thickness of my throat that threatened to make my voice hoarse and quavery. I said, to answer your question from before, no, I don't believe your stories. Not exactly. I think they're fucking fabulous and super entertaining, but I don't think they're the truth. Henry waved a dismissive hand and said, "Big weird world out there, kiddo. You and me. We don't know jack shit about it. I can only tell you what I've seen and heard. If you want to, keep listening before you go bullshit. The story ain't done yet." Otto Heinemann did have a few tricks and glamours up his sleeve.
Man, my new home is fuck here, guys. Look at this shit. Damn.
He never jumped at all. Probably no magic that can let someone jump off a cliff and disappear in thin air. They can make someone else think they did. Like a bully, Otto was a coward at heart. A real fight was the last thing he wanted, so he can't sleep. Trick hid in the weeds. So, well, he was gone, and he followed him. Your dad didn't have any way to call for help, so he decided it was best to look down in the shed behind the burning farmhouse and wait for dawn before he made another move. It's been a long, awful day and a long, awful war, and sheer exhaustion got the better of him. Remember when Wally turned to me in the dark when we were sitting there in my truck and said, "Do you remember what I was dreaming about?" Paul standing there, blood dripping from his clothes. He made a gun with his finger and thumb, like this. Says, "Wake up." A word of a lie. I opened my eyes just in time to see the barrel of a rifle poking into the doorway. Now, Wally rolled out of the way and around punched a hole in the floorboards where he'd been sleeping just seconds before. He pulled out his pistol and fired a couple shots at the door, but I don't know if he dropped his rifle and running away. Wally chased after him, fired another shot. This time, I dropped like a stone on the barren field beside the barnyard. Wally walked up close enough to put another one in his back. He didn't get any reaction. Wally was dead. He knelt down beside the body and let out a scream. It wasn't Otto Heinemann even looking at him himself. It was the hole the size of his fist where his forehead used to be. His own dead body looking up with blood in his eyes. He has many tricks and glamours. It grabbed him by the neck and started strangling him. He struggled with his horrible thing in the dirt for a few seconds, fighting for his life. He realized he was rolling around and strangling himself with his own two hands. There was nothing there. Well, he got up, panted for his breath, dirt in his hair. He screamed, "Show yourself, goddamn you, show yourself!"
Mm-hmm.
Fired a few more shots on the night before it dawned on him. I was trying to get him to waste the last of his ammunition. In his mind, the voice of a dead boy told him to drop his pistol, and he pulled out John Paul's pocket knife. He held it up by the blade in the moonlight, so Otto could see it from wherever he was hiding in the shadows. So he started spinning in a circle on his heel, And he called out, maybe I made a deal too, fucker. Maybe
Man,
I
that's a
got a
creeper,
picture
bro.
of
Fuck
my own
this.
goddamn crowd.
Oh my god.
Maybe I'll do something like this. He threw the knife in some random spot in the dark. It whistled through the air and appeared to stick right to nothing at all. There was a shriek of pain, and suddenly there was Otto, reeling around and screaming with Jean Paul's knife sticking out of his eyeball. He dropped his own knife and tried to run, but your dad was already on him. Wally took him down and pinned his head into the dirt with his knee. Otto begged for mercy, but might as well have been talking to a brick wall. Wally pulled the knife out of that bastard's eye, slit his throat from ear to ear. I muttered, Jesus, and drank some more beer. That was that, I guess. Henry shook his head grimly and said, oh, my boy. Well, Otto was flopping around and choking on his own blood. He saw something floating in the dark. Wispy shape out of moths and mosquitoes, swirling motes of dust. More of a suggestion of form than actual shape, if that makes sense. Otto saw it coming too, probably.
Monster, fucking monster is over there.
Just a brief second. It felt like Otto was being dragged down into the dirt. Wally thought he heard a scream somewhere in the distance. After that, all he could hear was the wind. It was over. Your dad was finished talking. Sat there, struck for a while longer, not saying much. Almost 1 o'clock in the morning. I fell home and get some sleep. There's one more thing I needed to say before I left. I turned to him and I said, you gotta get your anger under control. When you're drinking, too. It happened tonight, it can't ever happen again. You gotta make peace with yourself right now. I don't think he listened. I chuckled. And Henry shook his head. No, he didn't. I had to try. He's my brother. Henry coughed into his fist and made a face. Ah, shit, hang on, I'm starting to get tuckered out. There's a knife of yours. Got quite a history. I don't know if you're gonna want to carry it around anymore, but either way, you should keep it. Certainly does. I agreed. I put the knife back in my pocket. Dad had quite a history too. And so do you. So do I. My history is empty cupboards, empty kitchen counter.
The fuck?
14 years in a row.
Again, really
Never had
appreciate
shoes
it, bro.
actually fit.
Oh my god.
Even though he's been dead for over 20 years,
Oh my god.
I still feel the impact. He stood up and said, hey, come here, kiddo. I got up for the first time in my whole entire life. Henry gave me a hug. At least 5 inches taller, 60 pounds heavier. I felt like a child in his arms. He sighed. He used one of these all the time. I tried to pull
So what the fuck? Another one of you? Oh, you spawning like bitches, bro. What the fuck? And you don't know you're trying to try. You just have one trident.
It'd be a hard thing for a man to do. Years to know. Bible and this, that's awesome. Plus better know.
The fuck?
It's hard.
You dick. Come on.
It's really fucking hard. After a while, Henry pulled back and said, now you're slobbering all over my goddamn shirt. I started to laugh. Henry cracked up too and cackled like two in the fluttering glow of the candles. When I finally got it under control and sat back down, chugged the rest of my beer. I plunked down the empty can and let out a long, shuddering breath. You can't die on me. You just can't. That settled it then. He grinned.
You motherfucker, alright?
Maybe I'll
You little
lose,
dick.
maybe I'll
I
win.
am sorry. I swear, if you jump, fuck you.
I'm a fighter.
If you fucking jump one more fucking time, bro. Jesus
Shrugs and looked
Christ,
down at
man.
the table. And there you are.
You bastard. Are you fucking...
Fuck it.
Dude, if
Get
you
up to the
fucking
mushy
in my
stuff.
phone,
Yeah,
right?
I'm ready for bed. I bedded down on the big floral pattern couch.
Told you, man. They spawn here. They fuck my land. They fuck it all, bro. They fuck it all. Bullshit here. Jesus fuck. I swear, bro.
In the
You
morning, I had a bit of a hangover,
dickholes.
and I was so
Good
sore
thing I
from
have
working
these
so
things, you
late.
son of a
I could
bitch.
barely
Alright?
get my
You don't
sorry
fuck
ass
off
off
my
the bed.
land, you fucking
Henry cooked us
bitch.
up a big breakfast of eggs and toast.
Go fuck yourself.
Chemistry between us felt better
Yeah,
than the
these
night
fuckers
before.
are fucking my
Still, my
land.
brain
They fuck my crops.
better
They
than
fuck it all, bro. They fuck it. If don't fuck this one, alright? If you fuck
Henry
this
walked
one,
me out to the car,
fuck you.
crouched
Alright,
down
go
to
fuck
look at me through the driver's
yourself.
side window and said, I might need some help getting to my appointments. Think you could drive me?
Son of a
And if I can't
bitch.
do it myself, I felt the tightness in my chest again, but I pushed it down and said, yeah, of course. Either me or Michelle, we can do that for you, no problem. Henry smiled and patted the roof of my car. Good, thank you. We'll do as we do, kiddo, because it's all we can do. Remember that. You better get going. Traffic starts to get crazy on the highway after noon hour. I took my arm out the window and gave him a wave and rolled away down the road. And Henry waved back. There was a great sadness in the way that he stuck his hand in his pocket. He went back into the house as I pulled out of his driveway. We're all afraid to die. Even a tough old buzzard like Henry. The grave's cold, the promise of better things, and besides, dinner with each year that I grew older. Life's hard. Death really any better? Before I hit the highway, I went out of my way to make a stop at the cemetery where my father's buried. I hadn't visited his grave in over 15 years. I stood there for a while with my head bowed, thinking of nothing in particular. And I placed the pocket knife on top of the headstone. I was ready to leave. I whispered, fuck you, asshole. Drive away without looking back. I don't think I'll ever come back for another visit. In life, my father wanted nothing more than to be alone with his misery. Now he can have his wish for the rest of eternity. As for Henry and I, well, we'll do as we do because that's all we can do. Henry's a fighter, as am I. As we all are. Those of us that still live and draw breath. I have to wonder, is death the final rest? Our trials and tribulations come in after. I like to think we're allowed to lay peacefully in our graves. Think of honor. Last scream in the dark. Honestly, I'm not so sure. Time flows differently when you're working.
Alright then, guys. That'll be today. And yeah.
Speeds along and drags.
Thanks for the thing, and yeah, it's all boring now. I think that's where he's losing, so I don't know. It's kind of fun though, right? So, you know. Been 3 hours, awesome. Here, it'll be awesome. I don't know. So you gotta play. Yes, indeed. And after this one, I have.
Henry's body declined so that
Alright, guys, that'll be today. And yeah,
staring
You see my house here? I did farm, bed, and I built my own house. They have some stores. They have some shits. There's a couch up there. So yeah, I might build my storage unit over there. So I don't know. So yeah. All right, boy, guys. Yes. Bye. And see you to the next one. See you to the next one. Peace. Peace out.